Out of the gates and ready to go. Hot mic underway on this Monday edition, the week of the NFL Draft, NBA playoffs heating up, and much more. Glad you're with us. Dan Dockich will join us, host of Don't At Me with Dan Dockich, mornings here across the Outkick Network. That's in 20 minutes. In about an hour and 15 minutes from right now, Hendon Hooker, former Tennessee quarterback, many are saying first-round pick on Thursday night. Hendon Hooker joins us. Coming up in hour number 2, plus Dan Z continues the draft discussion in hour 3 from Outkick.com. Chad, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Hutton. Excited to be back this week. Ready to go.
Busy week. And the drama for the number 1 overall pick, well, I think many expect, including us, it's Bryce Young to the Carolina Panthers. But here's the NFL draft. There's always a reason to sell hope and a reason to sell uncertainty. And that certainly is the case with the Houston Texans at number 2. Look how much the odds have flipped for the number 2 overall selection, according to Las Vegas, which for months was either C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young. The odds-on favorite for the number 2 pick now, Chad, is Will Levis at -140, followed by Tyree Wilson or Will Anderson, the 2 pass rushers, before you get to C.J. Stroud for the Houston Texans. And I'm surprised. For the life of me, I can't explain this because it just doesn't make sense to me. And here's why. The idea that Levis, well, he did less, but he didn't have an offensive line. And the run game wasn't the same because Chris Rodriguez was out. And, well, they had different offensive coordinators.
Excuses.
Wide receivers went to the NFL. That's all true. But then on the same discussion about quarterbacks, C.J. Stroud, he had too much talent around him. How can you trust that? Because the wide receivers were excellent. The best wide receiver of the lot is still playing for the Buckeyes, and he'll be in the draft next year, Marvin Harrison Jr. Offensive line, putting offensive tackles into the league the last couple of years, starting on offensive lines across the league. But, Stroud just had to throw to the open man. But it's Levis that has the opposite reaction whenever we're not seeing the same type of production. I'm drafting C.J. Stroud. The Texans, if true, have overthought this. And it's a prime example of why they're the Houston Texans right now, picking number 2 overall. And they have 11 wins over the last 3 years. And they're willing to take Will Levis over C.J. Stroud. And the entire time, I understand they wanted Bryce Young. And if it's not Bryce Young at number 1, that's who they're going to select. But there's no way I'm drafting Will Levis ahead of C.J. Stroud in this draft, Chad.
Well, this is all just crazy to me that Will Levis has somehow magically jumped C.J. Stroud. Will Levis, who a week and a half ago was one of the guys that was seen as their stock was falling based on reports, that could be dropping in the first round. Now the Vegas favorite to be the number 2 overall pick. I am curious, though, with this Vegas odds, it's just to be the number 2 overall pick.
That's right.
I don't know if that means the Texans are all in on Will Levis or Vegas believes someone else is all in on Will Levis and is trading up to number 2 with the Texans, and they'll get what they want ultimately, and that is to trade out of that spot to someone who wants one of these quarterbacks, much like we were discussing on Friday. But either way, I'm with you. If it's Will Levis as the second quarterback taken in this draft, that's going to be a huge mistake for whoever does it, whether it be the Texans or a team trading up into that spot to draft second overall. I don't get it. I think whenever you're doing backflips to make excuses for someone and say, yeah, but all these things were happening, then something's going on. And when the only knock on C.J. Stroud, there's really 2 sort of knocks on him. 1, the surrounding cast was way too good, and that's why he looked as good as he did. And 2, it's that he's not a real reactionary quarterback. He's good with a plan. He's great with 1 or 2 reads, but he's not going to be great ad-libbing in an offense if things break down. I still watch Will Levis and think turnover prone. I don't see what everyone else sees in that player. And I'm not saying that I'm absolutely in love with C.J. Stroud, but turn on that tape against Georgia and tell me what there's not to like about C.J. Stroud against one of the best defenses in America this past year in a playoff game.
Yeah, I mean, so Bryce Young doesn't have talent around him. Joe Burrow didn't have talent around him.
I mean, C.J. Stroud is his kicker missing a makeable field goal away from winning a national championship.
Yeah.
Because they probably go on to blow out TCU, not maybe the way Georgia did, but they're going to win that game if they can get past Georgia. So that's how close he was, with nothing to do with his play, cost him a national championship.
But also, then this S2 cognitive test or whatever, where you have all the lists. Like, first off, how do you know any of that's accurate? I don't know the actual company that it's doing. It's not releasing this. It's all being leaked, and it's just taken as gospel. When the quarterbacks that we aren't even discussing for the first round, there are some names on there that have scored high according to the information that's available. If you're going to take it at face value, or is their stock rising all of a sudden because they have a great S2 score? Ryan Leaf joined us on Friday and said straight up, like, he and Peyton Manning took the Wonderlic side by side and looked at each other and they said, "What the hell are we doing?" Like, and they had the same score.
Yeah.
One ends up being Peyton Manning. The other one was a bust. And Ryan Leaf is the one that said that. And they had the same score. None of this ultimately matters. It comes down to rapport with the offensive coordinator and the system that you're going to, and the head coach, of course. But you had the fit. And whether or not that guy is a leader. And ultimately, can he ball? I've seen C.J. Stroud do that. And while I've seen elements of this with Will Levis, we've talked more about the measurables and not the intangibles. And with Stroud, I can just say, hey, watch this game. It shows you everything we need to know.
And with that S2 cognitive test, and I want to ask Hendon Hooker about this when he joins us later, because Hendon Hooker scored low on this. Mm-hmm. Bryce Young, Will Levis scored very high. Hendon Hooker was like 48, 46 percentile, something like that.
Whatever that means.
And then C.J. Stroud was like 18%. I mean, there was a big drop-off to Hooker and then a bigger drop-off to Stroud on that list. I'm with you. I don't know. I want to ask what this test was exactly. We've taken the Wonderlic. I think every media member has at some point because you get so interested in it. I don't know what this S2 cognitive test is or how it relates to a player's ability as a quarterback in the NFL. But we'll ask Hendon Hooker about it. But if this is the one reason, if Nick Caserio marked an X through C.J. Stroud because of his S2 cognitive test, then Nick Caserio thinks he's the smartest guy in the room, and he's probably not. That's what I hear from that. If that's the only reason. I don't know that's the only reason. But that's the one bit of news we've gotten about C.J. Stroud, that suddenly his draft stock is supposedly tanking because he scored poorly one time on the S2 cognitive test.
And what they've done is they have created the drama necessary, the league and the ESPN, necessary to tune in to figure out what Houston's going to do at number 2. Which, by the way, if everyone believes that they're taking Bryce Young number 1, Houston can go ahead and trade out of that pick just like Chicago did a couple months ago. Because you know who's going to be there if you're buying the fact that Carolina's taking Young. And if not, if you're willing to take Young, you stay there. But Houston wouldn't trade the pick if Bryce Young were going to be available.
If Houston trades out, in the next couple days leading up to the draft, I think will be the aha moment on the Vegas suddenly favoring Will Levis that extremely to be the number 2 overall pick. That they caught wind of something. Vegas always knows, at least we believe that. And if they do in this situation, it's because they caught wind of someone trading up to get Levis.
I just don't know how Vegas knows in this case this far in advance for that when this is the season of lies across the league and posturing and deception with what teams actually want to do. Hit us up with your thoughts. You can join us in the chat on YouTube. Just search out Outkick. We hope you'll subscribe, like, and share while you're there. Chad, the NBA's gotten a lot of wrong recently in recent seasons. Jalen Rose continues to show us how it's done. I'm a good example of the casual sports fan for the NBA. Without a home market team, I'm looking for the trash talk. I'm all for the suspensions we've seen recently, the controversy. And guess what? None of that came with any political standing or grandstanding for any specific side or difference of opinion. It was all taking place on the court and the rivalries and the trash talk that we saw this weekend. But Jalen Rose, as a part of all that coverage, jumps on his podcast in reaction to Phil Jackson, speaking in regards to exactly what I'm saying, where they've gotten a lot wrong in recent years, the league has, and responds by saying, well, this is also the coach that got rich off the, the play of the great players around him, and insinuating certain things more than deliberately saying it, and becoming a headline once again. During a time where the league doesn't need the off-the-court battling back and forth on racism, activism, or which page LeBron James is reading on a Malcolm X book.
Yeah, I mean, Phil Jackson basically said, I lost a lot of interest in the NBA during the bubble year, during the COVID year in the bubble, because it was all the, end racism and justice for all. And
names on the back were...
Names on the back were changed,
right,
and everything else. And he's like, I just, I want the NBA to be about the basketball and not political activism. I completely agree. I've got a very consistent stance on this. If I run a league, if you name Chad Withrow commissioner of your sports league, here's my solemn promise to you as a sports league. I will stand for, wait for it, the sport. I'll stand for the league. That's what we stand for if I'm commissioner of your league. It's about the competition. It's about the players, the coaches. It's about the sport. It's not about political activism. We stand for nothing other than the NBA if I'm the NBA commissioner. Now, I'm not trying to squash political activism altogether. If you as an individual want to be politically active, that is your right as an American citizen. You can do it. I just finished a documentary on Bill Russell. He found tons of ways to be politically active. I didn't see him doing a lot in a Boston Celtics uniform when he was playing in the NBA. Would he not stay in a hotel that would only serve whites when he had an exhibition game in Lexington, Kentucky? He didn't. And guess what? His teammates wouldn't stay there either. And they went home and didn't play the game. You can be politically active. You can take a stand for something. I'm not trying to squash that out of the individual. But when leagues take the torch and become overly political and try to become political activists, it only serves to hurt the overall product of the league. And this is what a very smart basketball man and Phil Jackson is saying. And Jalen Rose can say what he wants about him making all that money off the backs of African-American players over the course of his time. Phil Jackson knows basketball, and he knows what he likes in the game of basketball. And what that is the game of basketball. That's what most sports fans like. They like the sport. They like the competition. They like the talent on display on the court at all times. So what Phil Jackson is saying is totally not controversial at all. But for some reason, Jalen Rose feels like everything that goes against even partially his political activism or his side is somehow is an affront to him as a man and to every black person on the planet. That's not what Phil Jackson is saying. He wants it to be about the basketball and not about changing the names on the back of the jersey and all that. Fine with that opinion. It's an opinion, just like Jalen Rose's. But the problem is too many people believe you can have one opinion and not another in this country. And I am of the opinion, if I'm watching a sport, that it's about the sport I'm watching and nothing else in that moment. I'm not going to get mad at anyone that wants to be politically active as an individual on their own time. This is not a shut up and dribble stance. It's I watch the basketball game to watch guys dribble. That's it. And if you're Phil Jackson or me or anyone else that has that opinion and you think, I would like to watch it for the sport alone, you're not wrong in having that opinion.
And guess what this weekend and this last week and a half have been about for the NBA? The sport. The
basketball. And the nut shots. That's part of it, too.
Yeah.
I would be remiss if I didn't also say there was a little bit about the foul play going on in some of these games with cheap shots.
Yeah, but it had nothing to do with controversy off the court. I mean, it's more about the old school mentality and whether or not it was dirty play.
Right.
Which drew
a little bit of controversy that way is good on the court.
Which drew into a reason to actually watch the sport, instead of the post-game presser. But the post-game presser with LeBron was awesome. The pre-game warm-up with LeBron and Dylan Brooks. Whenever they got face-to-face, when LeBron confronted him pre-game, ball game, done. With Brooks just standing there and LeBron saying, he's like, hey, there was nothing private about it. It was very public. That's how I like it. You could tell LeBron was telling him, hey, you woke up the dog. And while LeBron was fine, the Lakers came out, and the way it was described by Doug Gottlieb this morning on Dan Dockich and Don't At Me was, for really the first time, L.A. became a huge LeBron fan instead of LeBron playing for Kobe's team in that moment. That's an interesting way to put it. But the post game, maybe you want to talk about the groin shot by Dillon Brooks where he's out, but he's not going to be suspended. I mean, the groin shot came from LeBron James and the Lakers in Game 3 with a 2-1 series lead and how they handled them.
And it was exactly what I feared, and I said the day after Dillon Brooks started running his mouth after that win was, this is not a bear you poke. I know he had the line about, I don't poke bears. You got to drop 40 on me before I pay you any respect.
Yeah.
Well, you poked a pretty big bear in LeBron James. He's the NBA's all-time leading scorer that you've awoken now. And now you're down.
The whole team woke
2-1 in the series. Yes, he woke up everyone. I just, if you want to do that up 3-0 or after you win the series, have at it. I love it because it's going to add to next season's drama. But from a competitive standpoint, I don't know that what Dillon Brooks did was the smartest. I love it from an entertainment standpoint. I love Dillon Brooks for doing it because now I'm even more into this series. But I don't know that he did his teammates any favors when he poked LeBron James the way he did.
Literally
and
and
LeBron, yeah. Well, that poke was a little different than the poke he made, the verbal jab after the game.
You think it was intentional?
Did I think it was intentional?
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, he knew what he was doing.
Yeah, it was like
What's
the capital of Thailand?
Well, the basketball
type joke. That's what he did. And that's
it's a very opportunistic chance taken there.
Yeah.
And I mean, Dillon Brooks. I mean, they're too little, too late at that point with the score.
Just be careful what you wish for because LeBron right now looks like he's going into dad mode, and he's asserting himself as the father of Dillon Brooks in these games.
Agreed.
And Dillon Brooks, in a typical little brother or son move, resorted to the one thing that the weaker person can do in a fight, and that is to hit the genitalia of the person on top of them.
The fact
and
is
that's exactly what he did in that game.
I actually don't want Dillon Brooks to stop.
Just more cheap shots?
Yes. I mean, LeBron was like, hey, I've been here and done that. Like, I've had people try to rattle me. This is not my first rodeo.
Well, the only thing that's going to be fun now about this series, though, is if Dillon Brooks has a counter.
I know.
The Grizzlies have to win.
Really, the best.
If they come out and win tonight and it's 2-2,
right,
and he's talking trash, then it's okay. Now, what's going to happen in Game 5? But if they go out and get curb stomped
I know.
In L.A., then that's not going to be good.
Coming up, Dan Dockich will join us, and an hour from now, Hendon Hooker will be on the show, but we'll discuss all of the happenings from the weekend across the NBA. We'll get Dan's take on the top 5 picks in the NFL draft and much more. That's straight ahead on Hot Mic.
Primary complaint is when you let somebody cross the street while you're driving and they purposely take their time when they see that they are waiting for you crossing the street. That is my primary complaint, and it drives me crazy.
My primary complaint is people who talk on speakerphone in public.
People that chew too loud.
Number 1 pet peeve, telemarketers. Number 2 pet peeve, when people don't understand the menu that they're serving. Number 3 pet peeve, when people ask for change but they have no quarters. Number 4 pet peeve, parallel parking.
My primary complaint is I can't just go to a bar and have a nice quiet beer. There's all this live music every freaking where. Like, I'm just trying to go to a bar, relax, have a beer, watch the game, but no, we gotta have these guitar players and these bands. Why can't I just hang out and just relax, have a beer, and watch the Memphis Grizzlies? I mean, is that too much to ask?
I do not appreciate or condone anybody that litters. I think you got to keep your planet clean. It's turning your nose up to everybody that has to clean your up with littering.
My primary complaint would be wobbly tables at restaurants.
Another pet peeve I have is no courtesy flushing. No one believes in that. Thank you. Another pet peeve I have is when people have AirPods in. Excuse me. Another pet peeve I have is when people have AirPods in and they're singing louder so everyone can hear what they're not supposed to listen to.
When people eat smelly food on the airplane.
Dishes left in the sink.
My primary complaint is when I'm out to eat with somebody and they bite their fork as they are putting the fork in their mouth to eat.
When people bite their fork and scrape that, and when they're eating dinner, you can hear like it's like nails on a chalkboard. Hell no.
My primary complaint is when people complain about me when I bite my fork.
Those folks who are in the airport talking on their cell phone very loud so everybody else can hear what they're saying, even though we really don't care.
My primary complaint are drivers who do not stop on a pedestrian crosswalk. Period.
My last pet peeve is that when people text you, they text you that they're busy, or if you call them, they answer and say they can't talk. Either way, just don't respond. You can't text me, don't text me back. And if you can't answer the phone, don't answer the phone to tell me you can't talk.
Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow rolls on with the host of Don't At Me here on the Outkick Network. Dan Dockett joins us each Monday at this time. Dan, hope you're doing well, and plenty of drama going into the NFL draft to discuss, but let's start with the NBA if we may. How invested are you in the series between LA and Memphis and Golden State Sacramento, those two?
Yeah, fellas, I like them both. I heard you talking about Dylan Brooks. Brian Windhurst described Dylan Brooks as Diet Draymond Green. And, you know,
that's a great line. I'm going to use that now.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty good. Hey, I am. If you get a chance, we played it on our show this morning, but if you get a chance, listen to Klay Thompson the other night talking about Steph Curry. It's one of the best things you'll see, because he just talks with such reverence and pride about being, his teammate and all the great things Steph Curry's about. And I'm a big fan of Steph Curry, have been for a long time. And I like the fact that they're being challenged a bit by the Kings. Heck, the Kings had a shot to win last night. Looked like it was going to go in. It didn't. So I'm really invested. In fact, I like the other day, my son's college roommate was Duncan Robinson, and they're best of friends. And Duncan signed a $92 million deal a few years ago, and next thing you know, he's on the bench, and he got a chance to play the other night, and man, did he play. So I'm looking at that one too. The NBA, or the bookmakers made a mistake. They gave me plus 100 without Giannis on the Heat at home the other night, and I took that to the bank, and frankly, I'm wearing new shoes because of it, and I'm hoping to do the same thing tonight because you're getting plus money at home again, even though Giannis is coming back. So I'm all in on the NBA playoffs. I like it.
Yeah, and normally I'm all in around conference final time. Like, wake me up when we get there, in a month. Not this year. I'm invested in some of these first-round series, and I'm not going to let Jalen Rose allow me to fall into the trap of talking about things off the court when the focus so far for the first week and a half of the postseason, Dan, has been exactly where the league needs it, on the court with a revived and an energetic playoff series across the country, no matter where you look, really. There are some bad ones, but for the most part, the stars are making really good series. Meanwhile, Jalen Rose is trying to make another political statement.
Yeah, he's got nothing but that. They've tried to on that show, and guys that are longtime ESPN guys, personalities that you know very, very well, are friends of mine, and they always say worst pre, post, and halftime show in the history of sports. And the NBA Countdown show has never gotten it right. And the one constant is Jalen Rose, and there's a reason for that. I mean, if you take Jalen Rose and how he interacts on the set, and you compare it to Charles Barkley, how he interacts on the set. Charles Barkley, draws other people in. Jalen Rose is like he's auditioning. And he's awful. He's horrible. And I'm the same with you. He wants to say whatever he wants to say about Phil Jackson. It's simply because he doesn't have anything else to give. He is who he is. He's got nothing to give as an evaluator, as an analyst, so he gets racist. He's trying to be the next whatever. Good for him. But the one great thing I've always said about the NBA playoffs is, man, oh man, are those crowds great? Are those crowds fantastic? New York City closed down 7th Avenue yesterday after they beat the frickin' Cavaliers. I mean, what the heck? And it's the one thing that makes me crazy here in Indiana that the Pacers haven't been in the playoffs. Because I'm telling you guys, the weather's usually pretty good. You go downtown, you get a bite to eat, you grab a beer, and you go to the game. And it's a city thing. It's not Indiana against Purdue, or it's not Vanderbilt against, Tennessee or anything like that. It's an entire city, and in some cases a state thing. And I think it's very, very cool. And you're right, the stars are shining, and screw guys that just want to bring BS into it because that's all they can do.
Yeah, and when Phil Jackson says, he's not into all the politics with the league, and he talks about the bubble year with all the messages all over the court and on the backs of jerseys and everything. Dan, I just got done watching this documentary on Bill Russell, the great Bill Russell, on Netflix, and he was very politically active as an individual, but he wasn't doing it with the Celtics. The league wasn't doing it, right? We got away at some point from sports being about the sport too often. I really think that's what Phil Jackson is saying, that I like the NBA for the basketball, and I want to watch the basketball. Phil Jackson's not, immune to being politically active or saying things that's his opinion one way or the other, but when did we get into the business of leagues as a whole taking political stances and publicizing them?
Well, when ESPN decided to do that with the NBA, and they decided to do that during the George Floyd and the pandemic and all that in the NFL, but I think the NBA did, and you know what? Hey, look, it's everybody's prerogative. But one thing I would say about Rose, don't give me this crap that Phil Jackson made millions off of the sweat equity of African-American players. I got to tell you, Michael Jordan never won a damn championship until what? Phil Jackson came along. Kobe and Shaq was considered a mess until what? The sweat equity of Phil Jackson, his organization, his teaching, his ability to get people to buy into what he was doing. That's where I had a real problem with Jalen Rose. He's full of crap. He's just saying things because people that are stupid will go along with him and go, yeah, it's the players. Well, no, it's not. Stan Ulbeck and Doug Collins, I love Doug Collins, he's a friend, but they didn't win nothing with Michael Jordan. Whoever was coaching the Lakers before Phil Jackson, if you remember, it was considered an absolute train wreck. Here comes Phil Jackson, and they straighten it out. And to your point, hey, look, everybody's entitled to their own opinion. And anybody that has ever paid attention to Phil Jackson understands never one time, not one single time, has anybody ever raised the question of Phil Jackson being anything but a uniter when he was coaching. Now, all of a sudden, Scottie Pippen has got to sell a book, and he's saying, well, you know, it was racial when Tony Kukoc got the shot way back in the 90s, and now Jalen Rose, again, just a guy that has nothing, and I mean nothing, to give as an analyst, and a guy who has failed miserably at everything he's done at ESPN, it wants to say racist. It was never, ever even a thought when he was actually in the arena, and now it's just dudes trying to make a name off of a guy who's got 11 championships.
LeBron says he's not into making statements when other players step up and try to make one against him. What did you make of the Lakers' response and when Dylan Brooks gave the old cup check, and he's not getting suspended for it, but it was a very sly move because he knew what he was doing?
He knew exactly, fellas, what he was doing. I mean, I've always said, look, I haven't played in 30 years, and I can do that. I can do anything to somebody that I wanted to do on the court as slyly as possible. Not that I'm going to get away with it, but I can make it look like I'm going to hit you in the packy. I'm going to make it look like I'm going to hit you in the throat. I mean, anybody can do that. Let's be honest. I say it all the time. You're sitting there in your underwear, for crying out loud. You're exposed, particularly when you have the ball or you don't have it. You're exposed. You're sitting there. Your arms are out. Are you kidding me? Dylan Brooks, I love James's response. James hasn't said the guy's name. James shouldn't say the guy's names. Dylan Brooks, again, Diet Draymond. I'm not surprised that he did that. I'm not surprised when the AAU culture that has impacted how people react in basketball, particularly the NBA, rears its ugly head. He was getting his brains beat out. He's going to continue to get his brains beat out. I think one of you guys said it when I was listening to you before. It'd be nice if they could bounce back and win Memphis, because it makes it more interesting. But I don't think LeBron's going to do that. I don't think he's going to let him win. I love the way James handled that. You can criticize LeBron for whatever you want to, but the way he handled that was like a big brother just shushing the little brother's friend who's trying to make a name for himself. I thought it was great.
Speaking of little cheap shots, how about Dejounte Murray of the Hawks just chest bumping an official on his way off the court when they lost to the Celtics last night? Dan, I watched probably the last 7-8 minutes of that game. There were some crazy good shots hit for both sides late in that game. This is a good way to ruin what was otherwise a good game when you bump an official on the way off the court.
Yeah, you know, that's just dumb, right? I mean, look, anybody that plays any sport, I don't care if it's a rec league or summer league, softball, whatever, you don't touch an official. It's just like, you know, when a whistle blows and you're a football player in Pee Wee football or you're a football player in the NFL, you just stop. There are certain things that you just know. And when I saw that video, well, I thought he's going to be very, very, very lucky if he just gets a fine. I've been looking. I haven't seen whether the NBA has come down yet. I know they're investigating. But I think you got to suspend the guy. I don't know how you let a guy who goes out of his way, Chad, he went out of his way to go towards the official. This wasn't like we're arguing and I move in too quick and you're moving in at the same time. He went out of his damn way to go bump this guy. There's no way, I don't think anyway, that you can let this guy play. I think he's got to sit at least a game, maybe the rest of the series, which is probably just going to be a game. But he's got to sit and pay a fine, in my opinion. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah, and the reports are just continuing with the playoff discussion that De'Aaron Fox has suffered a fractured index finger in his left shooting hand. So that he could miss Game 5. He's very doubtful, is what they're saying. That sucks for the Kings in what's been a crazy series, and the way the Warriors have responded as well.
Yeah, I think it's been a great series, guys, and I hate to hear that. I got a chance to meet with him. I don't know about, hang out with him, but I was in the Bahamas doing a summer deal, and he was on Kentucky's team, and he's just a neat kid. It was Bahamas during one of those tournaments.
Yeah.
He's just a neat kid. He's just a really good dude. You know how it is. I don't care whether it's media. I don't care whether it's teaching or whatever. There are just some people you root for, and I root for him. That series without De'Aaron Fox, it may be over anyway, but it's over. They had a chance last night. Harrison Barnes had the shot. he didn't make it. You got to make it when you get a chance to beat those guys, and they didn't. That's over if that's true.
It's tough to know what is true across the NFL draft. What GMs are saying at pressers, what the media is reporting, what they're not saying, who could be available but isn't for sure available. Dan, let's play a short game of do you believe? Do you believe C.J. Stroud is actually going to fall past Houston or any team at number 2 overall? Because right now, Will Levis is the odds-on favorite to be the second player selected on Thursday.
No, I don't believe that. I believe that C.J. Stroud will be the second pick. I think that whatever's happened here in the gambling markets, I saw it, Caesars had a minus 140, and that's great. But I believe when it all shakes out and you got to bring your pick to the podium, man, at number 2, I can't do Will Levis unless I'm 1,000%. I don't think anybody's going to be 1,000%, regardless if he can throw a football and hit a goalpost from 50 yards on his knees, which was impressive, by the way. Mm-hmm. But I'm not buying it. I don't believe it. I believe C.J. Stroud will go number 2.
The Colts will say that every team is going to say they ended up with the player they wanted. Are the Colts actually going to end up with the quarterback they want at number 4?
Well, based on what I just said, that Stroud's going number 2, no, I don't believe it. I think the Colts are the most intriguing player here, because if Stroud is number 2 and number 1 goes to, Bryce Young, and number 3 goes to Will Anderson or whomever, now the Colts are intriguing, because I can't believe, I don't know how you guys feel, I'm curious how you do feel. I can't believe that anyone with the 4th pick in the draft that absolutely has to have a franchise quarterback really believes Levis or Richardson is an absolute 4 pick in the draft. Maybe I'm dead wrong about that, but I cannot believe that. I just have a hard time with that. What do you think?
To me, it's Levis next in line there based on the organization. Is that bad? Like that's why I think it makes sense. Or Richardson. Take the ceiling and just go with your gut and the coach you just hired.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I can't believe, like, you're not, it's not like definite, right? It's not like, well, this is who I would take. It's like, well, I think I would take Levis. I think I would take Richardson. He's got the highest ceiling. Levis has got all the physical attributes. All I hear about now is Josh Allen this, Josh Allen that. Okay, look, it's a tough spot, because if you don't take him and he does end up Josh Allen, then you look like a clown. I think the Colts are intriguing. Like the guy you're going to have on here, Hendon Hooker, he's a bit intriguing too. Depending on where his knee is. What makes Hendon Hooker healthy not as good as Anthony Richardson or not as good as Will Levis? I don't have the answer to that.
Dan, are you still bored by the final season of Succession, or did it pick up for you when they went to Norway last night on the episode?
I just watched it. I got done. I did another show, and I just got done watching it. Yeah, I'm much better with it now. You know what? I'm kind of digging the old guys that are in the background. They're sitting there. A couple are in the sauna. They're sitting in there with robes. Yeah, I kind of like it. And you know what? I know she's pregnant, and I don't know how the whole thing's going to play out, but I need more Shiv in my life. Yeah. I want more Shiv. I think she's awesome. She's going to be a major player here with that Norwegian dude. And I don't know when I mean play. Maybe playa, Playa, with the Norwegian dude. I don't know. But Tom's got himself a serious problem right now, because he looks like he's going to be out of a marriage, out of the family, and out of a job. And I ain't mad about it, because he makes my ass tired.
You're describing the robes like he's back at the lake house.
Hun, you're gonna, whenever you catch up to Succession, you're gonna know exactly what we're talking about, and you're gonna absolutely love it.
I already know. Chad's already told me what happened.
Yeah, it's great. Carl and Frank are the 2 old guys that are really they've come into their own the last couple of episodes now that the boss is dead. Spoiler alert once again. It's really amazing now that's gone on. They're awesome.
Yeah, they sit there. They were in robes. I don't know what he was drinking. It wasn't brown, so I'm assuming it was rum or vodka.
They were putting their compression socks on the plane, too, and saying, what are you looking at? To the younger guys looking at them? But it's good.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're back in, Dan, because I've liked the whole season, but last night's episode was really good.
Yeah, I thought it was really good. I'm hoping, and I don't know, I need one more F off from Logan Roy. Somehow, some way. There's got to be a ghost of Logan Roy, a hologram. There's got to be something. Because he needs to be back in my life dropping F-bombs on people because that's magnificent.
Maybe
That's
there's a
good
spinoff
TV.
with that or something.
Well, he
spin off with a dead man.
Well, prequel.
He did say that he shot some other scenes that have not aired yet. So there will be flashbacks
Dream
at some
scenes.
point, Dan. So I think you're going to get what you want with some flashbacks of him still breathing.
Yeah. Yeah, but I need more Shiv. I think Shiv has that look that she's always smiling, but she's kind of grin blanking you.
Mm-hmm.
I can't say the word, but that's what that's what she's kind of doing. Like she knows more. So no, it's good. Barry was last night. Barry's really good, and Barry came back. Bill Hader is fantastic. So I got an evening of Barry, and then Perry Mason comes on later. So I'm going to get bonbons, get some chocolates, weigh 700 pounds, and, it's cold here in Indy, nothing else to do.
When Sunday nights on HBO matter and you like the shows that are on there, it's always entertaining because I'm with you. I like Barry.
Yeah.
I like Perry Mason, which is on Mondays. But Sunday night on HBO right now, it's humming, baby, with Succession's final season and Barry's final season all building to a conclusion with both great shows. I'm with you, Dan.
Dan Dockich, the host of Don't At Me across the Outkick Network. Dan, you're the man. Appreciate you as always, and we will catch up soon.
Thanks for today, Jonathan.
Yeah,
appreciate you guys.
Absolutely.
See you later.
Dan Dockich each Monday with us. We appreciate him joining us, too. He mentioned Hendon Hooker. Hendon Hooker's coming up in roughly 30 minutes or so. Looking forward to that. Actually, 40 minutes from right now. Hope you'll join us for that. When we come back, though, the prime effect in the snow. It's a Yellowstone moment in Colorado.
It's basically
Deion Sanders.
Basically played a game on the Dutton Ranch.
It's amazing.
This past weekend.
I don't know anyone that saw a play from it except for the snow falling, and it could he script it any better? We'll try to explain
the outfit, the
how
whole thing.
It's
was
all
great.
perfect, and we've got details of why next on Hot Mic.
Last thing, did you know that a fan, there's always the same guys. A fan is suing Bradley Beal of the Wizards. A fan is asking for damages in excess of $50,000. According to the report, this guy, his name, it's unbelievable. His name is Kyler Briffa. He's from Orange County, Florida. Now listen to this. Beal was headed to the locker room when a friend of Briffa's said, "You made me lose $1,300, you F." Briffa apparently was the guy that Beal thought said it. Beal said, "When you disrespect me, I'm going to press you about it. Do you think this is a joke? 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 Because when I press you about it, what are we doing? What are we doing? What are we doing?" Apparently Bradley Beal repeats himself. All right? Of a priest, somehow this is a complaint by this guy. Now, I don't know what the problem is. He addressed the incident. No one wants to lose money. I get it. If you keep it about sports, I'm all for it. But I think it's when people start getting personal, talking about your family, talking about your character, your integrity towards the game, I think all that, we can save it. We can really keep those comments to ourselves. Yeah, well, that ain't happening. So look, I got to tell you, then what happened is this. Listen to this. Beal turned around and hit Briffa on the side of the head, knocking his hat off. Well, you can't hit people. Just pay the $50,000 and move along. If you did it, if it's on video, pay the $50,000 and away you go. But you can't be walking off the court hitting people. And when did NBA players become so sensitive? I walked on a court at Michigan State and 12,600 people chanted literally, "We hate Dockich." Hate is what they said. Not dislike, not don't like, or you suck. They hate. Not one thing was done about it. I didn't whine about it. Stood up, waved. I mean, what are you going to do? The next game at Purdue, the paint crew chanted, "We love Dockage." When did everybody get so sad? Well, you'll make it personal. Of course it's personal. Sports is personal, you idiots. Well, you don't talk about my family. I'll give you that. You don't talk about the integrity of the game. Shut up. Shut up. If you want to talk about the integrity of the game, don't promote Draymond Green dancing around like a complete clown in the middle of a court after getting ejected. If you want to talk about the integrity of game, how about you don't wear hats on the sideline when you're not playing? Yeah, seriously.
Primetime put on quite the show in the spring game debut for the Colorado Buffaloes. I don't know how you scripted any better than the setting of snow at a spring game in April and May's on the horizon. And on the horizon for Deion Sanders was looked like he was riding horseback in there trying to, like Yellowstone. I mean, I saw the crowd of nearly 50,000. And when you see the comparison of the video from the spring game last year to this year, and the elements involved, like 75,000. Here's last year to this year, 75,000 for Ohio State. And Bobby Carpenter last week said, "Look, good things happen whenever there's 77 degrees and sunshine, and you're looking for football in April." Well, try Colorado, where you're just looking for win number 2 last year. You can't find that, and you end up with Deion Sanders and a great crowd on hand as he rode in and put on a show. Enough so that he's running some players out. 15 players entering the portal following the spring game for Colorado. He's doing exactly what he said he was going to do.
Is he going to make this? Program. Is he going to make this hat a common theme on the sideline? because if so, this is one of the best looks in the history of football. A lot of Bum Phillips vibes.
Yeah, man.
With the hat.
Sunglasses.
He also looks like it's the hat that the woman who rides in on the Denver Bronco wears. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
She's got the chaps on, and she rides the Broncos mascot in. I feel like she's got the exact same hat. So I first thought, is that an ode to the woman who's the Denver Broncos mascot or rides in on the Bronco? Either way, terrific look for Deion Sanders. Not as good of a look when you have 15 more players leaving via the transfer portal after the spring game.
I mean,
it seems to me they only wanted one of them, and that's the kid who had the monster day.
I think it's a great
receiver and then left. He auditioned on national TV and then
from
left.
The first day he walked in and gave that opening speech where they're meeting him, and he's like, "Look, to be honest with you, some of you guys we're
not going to make the cut.
We're going to recruit over you." Yeah, and he's doing exactly what he said he was going to do.
I'm talking to you, Colin. He just calls someone by name.
Meanwhile, you've got
talking to you over there, Davey, our backup linebacker. I'm recruiting over you.
Meanwhile, you've got the Colorado chancellor saying that the Pac-12 is going to end up with the third most lucrative TV deal when it's all said and done. That's bold, considering where they are right now and the TV rights agreement up in 14 months now. That's a steep prediction. They also said that Colorado is committed to the Pac-12, which, I mean, technically right now is true. If I'm the Big 12, I'm jumping in immediately, trying to make a deal and be for the third consecutive year, have conference realignment as a topic on July 4th weekend.
What does the chancellor know at Colorado, or does he know anything, or is he just being overly optimistic? Because there have been conversations with Apple, and the only way they're getting to that number is if Apple is just paying them way too much than what it's worth right now, and maybe that's the case. But
significant deal for Apple, but
that's a bold
third best in payout is saying something.
That's got to be over $31 million a year. That's
right,
what
yeah.
The Big 12 is. So it's a big payout if it's just Apple that's buying the rights to all of it, or is it going to be more?
And also, if
it's a big time prediction coming from the chancellor.
There's been a lot of negative reporting though about all this for the last month and a half. Why would you allow that to continue if it's going to be some lucrative deal with Apple? Lucrative meaning like financially, I'm saying, because that's what they're saying here. It's going to be the third.
It's one thing to stop the bleeding of the bad reports about how poorly the negotiations are going and getting a TV deal. I understand if you're a chancellor in the Pac-12, you want to cut that off and you want to say, hey, it's actually going a lot better than people think. We have some really good possibilities out there. It's a completely separate thing to throw out a predictor like that and say, we expect to be the third best conference when it's all said and done. Yeah. Because then if you don't make it to there, you're not even close, you look like a failure.
Yeah, but
you can't sell success at that point.
But the prediction by Kleofkoff last year was $40 million. So it already appears as though it's going to be, right? Like they've already tried to claim their spot and couldn't. That's why this one is, and he also said they're committed to the Pac-12. I mean, who can say that? How can any program right now say that, given the circumstances?
Well, he's saying it because
they are right now, and at this very moment.
It's true that right now we're committed to the Pac-12 because we don't yet have our formal offer from the Big 12. I mean, you could also just end it with that. If the Big Ten came calling, though, I mean, the chancellor said that. We're committed to the Pac-12, but if the new Big Ten commission wants to give us a call, pick up the phone, then we'd listen.
Jed, I'm watching Shedeur Sanders warm up on social media. You get the clips, right? And it looks like, at first, I had no idea, by the way, it was snowing in Colorado. I thought, is this like sand at the 50-yard line for the logo? I'm like, what is he warming up in right here? And then I realized, it's snowing. And then I start clicking on all the links. Of course, the field didn't look covered like this whenever they're showing the warm-ups. But, I mean, I didn't have to see a single play to know that it was a massive win for Prime.
It's a massive win for a TV audience. I do wonder, though, is it a massive win for recruiting when you see snow in April if you're a kid from a warm weather state? Maybe it's a sales point, maybe it's not. But there may be some people that think, is it that bad in Boulder all the time where it's snowing in late April? So could be a win, could be a loss. The crowd that showed up is a big win. It's a big win for them.
The crowd plus Prime. But that's the other thing is Deion Sanders is riding in and taking over. But I don't agree with everything he's saying about the kids that are in the locker room. Don't get me wrong, but I mean,
it's fine to talk a big game, but you got to deliver. You just got to start bringing in the players too, because he doesn't have much of a roster right now with all that he's lost.
You do have to deliver.
You're cutting the fat, and you're cutting a lot of players who lost a ton of games, so it's not a huge loss or anything. He knows what he's doing, but you better start bringing in some big transfer portal additions also, and he's done that with some of his guys from before. But bring in more and more of that, because with the transfer portal nowadays, expectations are quicker to be good. You can turn things around, good or bad, in a hurry because of the portal. So he's going to need to do that in a good way.
Hendon Hooker is going to join us coming up in about 25 minutes. When we come back from the upcoming rookie quarterback, we'll start, though, with the veteran QB that I guess should be traded on draft weekend, Aaron Rodgers. We haven't heard much, but the latest report is that the Jets and the Packers, they're talking again. Details there, and how long is too long to wait to get this deal done? Hot Mic continues on Outkick.
What you're experiencing is the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafting flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation, and pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, it ain't this. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Come on.
Welcome into Outkick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader. I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life. ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in a land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the #1 overall pick.
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna lib. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose.
The scary thing, Tommy, is in the history of this government, I've never seen them give anything back that they've taken.
Oh no, they never do.
And they won't.
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human being. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it, people.
I believe this person is the greatest player anybody alive will ever see. How can you hate Derek Jeter? A guy's on-base percentage tells me his batting eye, and a guy's slugging percentage tells me if he's a threat. That's the kind of guy that throws a no-hitter, that effectively wild guy.
Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, bold taste of a Southern legend.
Just like that, the second hour is here. Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow rolls on from 6th and Peabody with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Coming up in 20 minutes, Hendon Hooker, Tennessee quarterback, first-round pick potentially on Thursday. He joins us. Joined us at the Super Bowl on Radio Row. We'll get an assessment of how things have gone, his health status, the meetings and expectations leading up to Thursday night's first round for the former Heisman hopeful who had all of those hopes dashed due to the ACL injury suffered against South Carolina late in the season. Chad, looking forward to that. Big thanks to Dan Dockett for joining us earlier in the show. Plus, we still have Dan Z from Outkick.com talking all things NFL draft. That's coming up in hour number 3. This should be the week where Aaron Rodgers officially becomes a New York Jet. Ian Rappaport is saying that talks have continued once again after what feels like another month or so of silence between the two sources. But the hopes are that they can finally get a deal done this weekend. And if reports are true that New York is not going to trade their first-round pick, which is, number 13 overall, that the second-round pick, and they actually have 2, they have back-to-back second-round picks on Friday, with the 41st and 42nd picks that would be potentially a part of this deal, second round this year and whatever it could be moving forward for potential years to come based on production from Rodgers. And if you're going to have this trade happen, it's going to happen Friday at some point prior to getting underway for night number 2 of the draft. And to me, Green Bay's got to make that move in order to take full advantage of the picks they're going to get in return.
Yeah, I mean, both sides desperately need it to happen at this point. We all suspect it'll happen by Friday. How many times are we going to get a report from an NFL insider about talks are continuing, no deal is imminent? I feel like we've heard that language of no deal is imminent a lot of times over this entire process. I think I speak for everyone. I say I'm ready for it to be over with one way or the other. I'm not someone who hates the draft and wants draft talk to be over with quickly. I like the draft talk, and I love watching the NFL draft and seeing what happens. I am someone, though, that gets very tired of seeing the same report over and over and over and over again about these two teams talking, but no deal being imminent. Let's get this to bed on Thursday or Friday and get Aaron Rodgers to the Jets, or throw us a complete curveball and get him to the 49ers like we talked about last week.
Man.
That would really blow the top off this thing.
That would be crazy. Because then Tannehill's a Jet, right?
You would think so.
Because Jets wouldn't be drafting a rookie because ownership has said this is a veteran away. We're a veteran away from being a Super Bowl contender. They've loaded up for Rodgers. They're ready to go.
Be good news for the Titans, I think, and what they could get at that point for Ryan Tannehill, because the Jets will be coming in desperate.
Yep. And the Titans general manager, Rand Carthon, from San Francisco, had his presser today leading up to Thursday's first round, said that he has not received calls and trade requests regarding Derrick Henry. And in regards to Tannehill, simply said that Ryan and they spoke in February, and that Tannehill knows where the organization stands with him, and that's all that matters to Carthon. Take that for whatever you want, but that's what the general manager is saying in Tennessee, where reports over the weekend were Tannehill's for the taking, and it may come after the draft whenever teams reassess what they did or did not do and what the Titans could potentially end up doing in the first round at quarterback.
Yeah, I think
it's one of the bigger storylines.
Every report that comes out about the Titans in this draft cycle, and the Titans are a very interesting team in the NFL because of their flexibility and what they could be doing. They could very easily stick at 11, draft an offensive lineman, do kind of the baseline standard thing, and say, hey, 1 game away from the playoffs a year ago. We're close. We can regroup a bit, get some help in this draft, and then be a playoff team again. Or they're also in that inflection point as a franchise where I believe the reports that they're open to dealing Ryan Tannehill. I believe the reports that they're looking to trade up to 2 or 3 and draft a quarterback. So just an interesting point right now for that franchise of what they could do and how they could be a disruptor in this draft on Thursday night.
Titans are one of the organizations actually moving from natural grass to artificial turf, and their NFL teams are moving away from turf fields, or at least that's the report, because that's what the NFLPA is requesting. Right now, 14 of the 30 teams in stadiums are natural grass. Only 14 of the 30. Titans would have made it 15. They're moving to this artificial surface. But the vast majority of the complaints by players are injuries that occur on turf. What the Titans are doing, they're using this turf that's like fill-in cork and like coconut shells. You actually have to water it, believe it or not. And it's only used in Houston, Dallas, and Los Angeles with the Chargers and the Rams. I don't think the players necessarily are talking about that artificial surface. What they are talking about are the terrible turf that was in MetLife. MetLife's changing their turf, their artificial turf, but it's the same type of turf that's in Indianapolis, in Detroit, in Cincinnati, in New Orleans, and players absolutely hate it. But the Titans did a study, Chad, and most of their injuries, and they've been injury-riddled over the last 2 years, they're saying they're going to be less injured based on the study that they did with the other turf I'm talking about, which they installed in their practice facility, than they would having natural grass that slides and that they can't keep the way they want it to based on the weather conditions and the climate.
Did I hear you say the Titans will be playing on coconut shells?
Yeah, they have been, and so do the Rams, and so do the Texans and the Cowboys.
Wow, I had no idea that coconut shells was part of this substance.
The black.
Yeah, the black stuff that pops up, the rubber.
Yeah, so it was rubber. I mean, that's what it's like. Recycled tires and stuff is what it used to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now it's this like different concoction that's supposed to be better for athlete performance and not, give as much or get stuck as much, I should say, in theory. But you do I don't pretend to understand it. I know it's way more expensive, and it's what the bigger organizations with these massive stadiums are now electing to do. But there's less than 5 stadiums that are using it currently.
I am a big proponent of natural grass.
Same.
In football. Love it. Love it when the game is played on grass. Love watching games that are played on grass more than any artificial surface. I don't care if it's coconut shells or banana peels or whatever you want to put down there. Give me natural grass every day of the week, every single time. But if you can find it safer or make it safer in some way, I'm also for player safety and all of this. But just personally, I think football should be played on grass, and I'll always feel that way.
And most players want it that way.
Yeah. Well, we're long removed from years ago of like the vet, that was concrete underneath, right? It was like playing on a concrete basketball court in the park, and that's what guys are playing football on. So the artificial surfaces now, granted, far superior than they were 20, 30 years ago, and when these turf fields were put in for the first time. But still, even with all the technology and everything else put into it, I understand the benefit and the lack of maintenance and all that stuff that goes into these decisions. If you're a team owner or you're a college program and you decide to go to artificial turf, but I prefer grass, even if it takes a little bit more work.
Having to water the artificial turf is just funny to me.
Joe Kinsey in the Thursday Night Mowing League would tell us that sometimes the bit of work that you got to put in for it, it's worth the returns. And I'll say that about the groundskeeper crews that are keeping natural grass fields maintained and ready to go all across America. I'll say the same for them.
Chad,
that little bit of work is worth it.
I was reading at Outkick, the SEC's thinking about doing what for storming the field? So right now you're fine. They're trying to find reasons to deter fans from storming the field. And what's being ballied about, this is not official, this is not even coming to a vote yet. What's being discussed are potentially taking away a future home game or a forfeit of said game where you storm the field. Surely they're not going down this path.
Well, the forfeit is insane.
Yeah.
I mean,
it was mentioned according to...
Pure insanity, and one that I feel like they would never follow through on. I mean, that would be just mutiny. Think about that. Like, I think we're looking right now at South Carolina. It's either South Carolina or Texas A&M. This may be Texas A&M against Bama.
Yeah.
Either way, imagine we're at the A&M game. I'm on the field when they storm the field. Can you imagine the SEC coming on a loudspeaker when everyone's celebrating on the field and saying, "It is by SEC rule, A&M has forfeited to Alabama, and they are now the winner." Or Tennessee has forfeited against Alabama, and they are now the winner. Pure insanity. That is way too far. Now, if you really want to get your point across and you feel like this is just the most dangerous thing that's happening on the planet and in your league, and you want to make sure people stop, I mean, I could see them saying, you're going to lose a home game with this team you're playing in that series. The next one's going to go to them, and now you're going to play 3 in a row at their place. If you came on and made an announcement about that, reminding fans, please do not storm the field, because if you do, you're going to lose a home game for this team in the future, maybe that deters it. But I don't see this as some like fundamental issue threatening the sport.
No,
in what we've seen in field stormings.
But man, they have been adamant about it even prior to this discussion.
Yeah.
But the fines are just way too low. I mean, if you're going to take away a home game, just fine the program like you would fine. Well, the fines don't matter though to the fan. So I understand what they're trying to do.
Yeah, it's no deterrent to the crowd.
If you're taking away that, you could fine them as much as what a home game would be worth, which is what like neutral fields have to come up with. If you're trying to have a team give up a home game so they'll play a neutral site matchup, right? But yeah, the deterrent for the fans would be the forfeit or the forfeiture of a future home game, the next home game, staying back where said team would be. But
well, the person leading the charge too bothers me a little bit in this because it's Alabama AD Greg Byrne. Now, granted, he would know more than anyone else because his football team has been involved in more of these than anyone else. Going back to the A&M game twice this year, Tennessee and LSU. A couple weeks later, stormed the field after beating Alabama. But it sounds, I feel like I can almost hear his tears as these reports are announced on some of this. Like, it doesn't sit right with me that he's the one leading the charge on all this.
But it is Mitch Barnhart and
it's Mitch Barnhart,
Josh Brooks too,
and Greg Byrne.
And Josh Brooks from Georgia that are in on this, that have been,
Has anyone stormed the field on Georgia? I can't remember a time where that's happened recently, even with all the recent success. Now they will. I mean, if someone beats them, it's probably going to happen the next time it goes down.
I thought you were going to say Kentucky.
Look, I don't think this is something we have to preserve. I'm not some, fighter for the rights of field stormers and think we have to keep it going. I also just don't see that it's that big of an issue that we need to be spending this much time or this much effort finding punitive damage that's going to be enough to deter fans from storming the field, especially forfeiting a game. That's insanity to me. Total insanity.
Chad, coming up, Hendon Hooker will join us. Last time we chatted with him, he was coming off the Senior Bowl where he wasn't able to go down and practice, but he was having that first impression with all 32 organizations. Then it was thought that, maybe he's an early day 2 pick. Now I think the consensus is not only is he first round, the question is where is he going in the first round with all the different scenarios.
It's gone from expected second round to disappointment if it's not a first round pick.
Yeah, we'll chat with him about the ACL recovery, what this process has been like, and his expectation for round 1 on Thursday night. Hendon Hooker with us next on Hot Mic.
Primary complaint is when you let somebody cross the street while you're driving and they purposely take their time when they see that they are waiting for you crossing the street. That is my primary complaint, and it drives me crazy.
My primary complaint is people who talk on speakerphone in public.
People that chew too loud.
Number 1 pet peeve, telemarketers. Number 2 pet peeve, when people don't understand the menu that they're serving. Number 3 pet peeve, when people ask for change but they have no quarters. Number 4 pet peeve, parallel parking.
My primary complaint is I can't just go to a bar and have a nice quiet beer. There's all this live music every freaking where. Like, I'm just trying to go to a bar, relax, have a beer, watch the game, but no, we gotta have these guitar players and these bands. Why can't I just hang out and just relax, have a beer, and watch the Memphis Grizzlies. I mean, is that too much to ask?
I do not appreciate or condone anybody that litters. I think you got to keep your planet clean. It's turning your nose up to everybody that has to clean your up with littering.
My primary complaint would be wobbly tables at restaurants.
Another pet peeve I have is no courtesy flushing. No one believes in that. Thank you. Another pet peeve I have is when people have AirPods in. Excuse me. Another pet peeve I have is when people have AirPods in and they're singing louder so everyone can hear what they're not supposed to listen to.
When people eat smelly food on the airplane.
Dishes left in the sink.
My primary complaint is when I'm out to eat with somebody and they bite their fork as they are putting the fork in their mouth to eat.
When people bite their fork and scrape that, and when they're eating dinner, you can hear like it's like nails on a chalkboard. Hell no.
My primary complaint is when people complain about me when I bite my fork.
Those folks who are in the airport talking on their cell phone very loud so everybody else can hear what they're saying even though we really don't care.
My primary complaint are drivers who do not stop on a pedestrian crosswalk. Period.
My last pet peeve is that when people text you, they text you that they're busy, or if you call them, they answer and say they can't talk. Either way, just don't respond. You can't text me, don't text me back. And if you can't answer the phone, don't answer the phone to tell me you can't talk.
Looks like the trade may be happening for Aaron Rodgers to the New York Jets. We'll get to that coming up, but one of the bigger storylines of the offseason, we may have a conclusion with that. Aaron Rodgers, according to Schefter and Rappaport, traded officially. We'll get the details coming up the next few minutes or so.
Compensation that we'll get to a little bit later,
That's
too,
right.
now official.
Hot Mike rolls on across the Outkick Network. Hutton and Withrow with you. Pleased to be joined by Hendon Hooker, Tennessee quarterback, potential first-round pick on Thursday night. Week of the NFL Draft is here. The party is on for Hendon with Bush's Beans, who's been a great partner of ours. We visited with Hendon a couple of times throughout this process. It's great to have you back on, man, and hope things are well.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me. Everything's well.
What does it feel like this week? The week is finally here. The work is in, and now the wait is on for Thursday.
It feels good. It feels good to finally, get to this point. Very blessed to be here, in this position, and I'm going to continue to, lock in on my assignment and task at hand, and that's just getting healthy and getting back to a better me. It's going to be very special, this weekend, and I just want to, spend some time with my family and have a great time. Just enjoying the process and all the hard work that has been put in.
So how is your two-part question here? How is your knee right now, and how challenging has it been to go through this process, Hendon, where most people are just working out and getting ready for the draft? You're getting ready for the draft. You're meeting. You're doing everything. On top of that, you're rehabbing from surgery. How difficult has that been, and where is your knee right now?
Yeah, it's been a challenge. Especially with all the visits and flying. So finding somewhere where I can find ice, or I have my BFR stim machine with me everywhere that I go, so that I can continue to, heal this leg and get back to, running and doing things that I'd like to be doing, like the rest of the guys. So I'm continuing to find ways to, get workouts in the hotel room, or waking up super early before I get on a flight while I'm here in Tennessee. Just finding ways to stack days, continuing to get better day by day. Got to find some type of way, whether that be mentally, physically, just continuing to push through, however I'm feeling, so that I can stay on my path to greatness.
Hendon Hooker with us on Outkick. So last we visited with you in Phoenix. The idea was that you would be available for the regular season when the NFL rolled around. Is that still the case? And I've never heard a player say they're behind schedule. But what are teams telling you about how they envision you with their organizations as you meet with them for year one?
Yeah, I'm still on pace for that. For it to be clear, September 1st. But as far as like meeting with the teams, it's always going to be something different, all depending on the team and what their needs are. And majority of the time, they just want me healthy. So continuing to rehab and learn has been the biggest thing that's been talked about, in the meetings.
Tom Brady is someone that quarterbacks will point to and say, well, that's aspirational to be like that guy. Championships, but also longevity. And he played to such a late age, Hendon. I'm curious how much you studied Tom Brady or how much you admire him, because the knock on you is not just the knee. It's people saying, well, he's a little too old to be a rookie quarterback in the NFL. Do you point to Tom Brady and say, well, I could play for 20 years possibly if I stay healthy once I get in the league? Is that sort of an inspiration for you in what you're telling teams?
Well, not so much. There's still, talk, hey, we're 25. It might not be that old, but in the terms of becoming a rookie, at 25, it hasn't really been talked about too much. Maybe one or two teams might have pointed out or said something about it, but it hasn't really been a topic. So coming in and I do watch a lot of TV 12. He's a GOAT. But just coming in and still learning, you never know where you can get a life gym from, whether that be a vet, a coach, someone in the front office. Just continuing to learn how to be a pro is the biggest thing, that I want to do as soon as I get in there. So still got a ways to go.
How excited have you been, and now that the process you've seen it through to where you can actually get behind closed doors and show these coaches, show general managers, hey, here's what I see on film. I'm not just the system quarterback that everyone wants to make it out to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually getting in there and, showcasing my football IQ I remember one meeting I was almost finishing one coach's sentences. But it's just so fun just to be able to talk ball. I'm a football junkie. I enjoy any taste of football that I can get. I think that might be my only thing I need to work on. I need to learn how to kind of just step away and relax sometimes. But I'm just a fan of the game. So going in these meetings and getting on the board and talking ball and getting back to the film, and then they install some things to me. We might go on the field, hit a walkthrough, and that's some of the funnest times. Honestly, you're out there and you're conducting the whole offense, and it might be some defensive guys out there, might be some cones, and you're pointing out the mic and you're making audibles. So it's always a great time, whenever I get out on the field and able to, be that field general that's in me.
I've noticed multiple times Josh Heupel has come to your defense when someone says system quarterback, and he goes through the list of things you're checking before snap, after the snap every time, and how much you had to administer that offense. How big of an advocate and how big of a help has Josh Heupel been throughout this draft process for you?
He's been great. He's like my uncle, but I love Coach Hype. He's one of the greatest coaches I've ever been around, and just him as a person is amazing. Just to be around, and then when you get around him in the football aspect of things, and he can fix just about anything with coming in as just a raw quarterback, or someone that's been established already, and just finding little things, little nuances to help your game goes to the next level, and it's amazing to see. It's like quarterback science, and he does a great job of explaining why we do things, and puts a lot on the quarterback, especially how we carry ourselves, making sure that we have those connections and priding ourselves and having the best brotherhood in Tennessee, in the whole college football world. We want to make sure that the quarterback position is the head of the table and is running things. So being put in those positions, being able to communicate at the line of scrimmage and checks and different calls, it's just natural, because now you have a connection with everyone on the field, even off the field. So it's a wonderful thing to have someone that's been in our shoes and has walked the path that we want to walk on. And has seen success. So, his word is gold to me.
Hendon Hooker, our guest on Outkick and Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow. So, did things really get going for you at the Senior Bowl, where they made the exception that you could go down and meet with teams, get behind the scenes, start chatting it up, and not have to participate in the practices? Of course, the injury would have kept you from that. Normally, they don't make that exemption. In this case, they did. And it seemed like the momentum started there.
Yeah, and shout out to the Senior Bowl and Jim Nagy for just allowing me to go out there and be a part of something special. It was a once in a lifetime opportunity, and it was something that I had on my list of goals for a very long time. So just to be able to be out there and put on a jersey, take the pictures, hang out with the guys. But it's also a grind. I'm still finding time to do my rehab at night, but still locking in on the playbook. So most of the nights I'm getting 3 hours of sleep maybe, but continuing to think about where my feet are. Like it's a blessing to be here in this position, and having the opportunity to talk to every team there, and build their relationship from there on. Like you said, there's a kickoff, and that's definitely where it started, moving forward, and now have relationships with all these teams and great football minds, and it's amazing and a blessing as well.
And when the injury occurred, I mean, players go through a range of emotions when the injuries happen. But for you, you had the Heisman hopeful, great season at Tennessee, and you've got the aspirations of first-round pick. Did you think you'd be sitting here in April, the week of the draft, knowing how you felt when the injury occurred, knowing that you were done for the year, but yet your aspirations of the league remain really intact as we go into first-round action on Thursday?
Mm-hmm. when I initially got hurt, I was just thinking about, man, I can't, be around my teammates. I can't enjoy that last, couple months with them doing the bowl prep. And that's kind of one of my favorite things to go through is bowl prep because you have good on good competition every day. So it's a lot of trash talking and competitive nature, and especially with my brothers here in Tennessee, that was one thing that I always loved. Was just spending time with them. So anytime that I was thinking about football, watching football, I was waking up early in the morning, the same week of my surgery, and tuning in to because I was on the West Coast, tuning in to our 7:00 meeting over here in Tennessee, and it's 4:00 in in LA. So any way that I could get back to being around them, that's what I was trying to do. But I knew that I was going to be all right. God, had a plan for me, and it was a humbling experience for sure. Because at a point, you have to depend on everyone, just to get around or eat. You never know. So I'm extremely blessed to be here in this position and continue to push, to get better every day.
We know that the standard answer here, Hendon, is that, you're going to be a good teammate and leader and quarterback for whoever drafts you. But of the teams you've visited with or talked to throughout this process, are there 2 or 3 teams that maybe stood out to you in terms of interest or just the experience with them and getting a chance to talk to their general managers or coaches?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I'm not trying to sound a certain way, but I mean, I'm coming in and I'm extremely locked in the task at hand, and that's put my best foot forward, football IQ, and just being myself. And it's been the same results every time. I'm just coming in having a good time, and they're just saying, it's been a great time meeting with you, and it's been one of my favorites. That's what it's been said. It's been one of my favorites. I've been told that numerous times on visits. So I'm just going out here enjoying myself and learning football, sitting down and understanding how each coordinator thinks, and it's a cool thing. So learning new terminology. So I've heard numerous of route concepts, and it could be the same concept, and it could just be different names. So it's cool to see how everyone communicates in their own special way through offensive schemes.
Help me out here. I had heard of the Wonderlic for years and years. I had never heard of the S2 cognitive test until this past week, and I've looked up the definition. A battery of tests intended to gauge how quickly and accurately a prospect processes information in a chaotic environment. That sounds just like playing quarterback to me. You could probably turn on game film and see how quickly someone processes information. Can you give us any example of what a question on this cognitive test or what you're doing in this test would look like?
Mm-hmm. It's computer games. So it could be a couple of pictures pop up and it'll tell you it's correct one time. You click one button, it'll tell you it's incorrect if you click it the next time. It's kind of playing mind games with you a little bit in a sense. But that's pretty much what that is. It was cool to see because it's a couple of different tests out there that I've been given. So it's cool to see how they kind of transform that into playing quarterback. But at the end of the day, you have to go out there, lead your troops, throw the ball, make plays, and be a quarterback at the end of the day. So it's still cool just to see how they're examining reaction time and recall. So, yeah.
Hendon Hooker with us. Did you consider going to Kansas City for the draft?
No, I didn't. I didn't consider it. I would rather just be at home with my family, just easy access right there with everyone, because I couldn't bring everyone. I have a big family, so can't bring everyone. So it'd be more convenient me just being at home.
So what will the party be like on Thursday?
Yeah, party will be great food. Me and my dad are gonna make some of his his secret recipe, Bush's Baked Beans. Shout out to Bush's Baked Beans. And it's going to be a great time just being there with my family and fellowshipping and thinking about all the hard work and things that, that we've all experienced together on this journey to helping me reach my goals. Because it took a village, to get here. And I can't thank my family, enough for, what they've done for me.
And Bush is rooted in the SEC country for over a century. Great partner with the SEC and with Hendon. Bush's Beans, a perfect addition for game day or draft day in this case. Final thing for you, how many cell phones are you going to have on you on Thursday night? And what are the rules to call or not call, text or not text, in regards to just everyone stay silent, and if it rings, I'm jumping on it because I don't want to miss it?
Yeah, I'll be on 2 phones. And yeah, nobody call me, text me during this time period right here. No more calls after 4. So hopefully, that call comes in, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, man, and I'm sure you've thought about it. It's hard not to, but when the call comes in, that's going to be special.
Yeah.
Especially with your family there. Congratulations, man. Overcoming a lot and then having the injury and getting to a point where the expectation is you're getting that call on Thursday night.
Yeah, best of luck on Thursday.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Let's catch up again soon.
Sounds great.
There's Hendon Hooker, Tennessee quarterback, first-round pick, expectations on Thursday, and overall just solid dude.
Yeah, really enjoyed meeting him face-to-face in Phoenix for the Super Bowl, and great to chat with him here as well. Week of the draft. I mean, we are 3 days away right now from figuring out what exactly is going to happen with Hendon Hooker and a lot of other first-round hopefuls.
Chad, we do know that Aaron Rodgers is officially a New York Jet. Let's get into details when we come back of the trade. And, I mean, it is officially Jordan Love time in Green Bay as well. We've got the details of the trade that just went down between the Jets and the Packers. That's next on Hot Mic.
One thing you'll notice is every pitcher will do this or this or this, and that's to get moisture for this. Okay, this is rosin, and the rosin bag, if you can probably see this, it's coming out. There's a little dust, right? It's like a little fine powder. Of itself, it's not sticky. Like I have rosin in my hand, it's not sticky. However, the second I do this, when I'm sweating, I make the rosin sticky. That's when I go back to the ball and rub the ball up to give me a little more adhesion between my hand and the ball. Now, here's the thing. If you think about this, if I put a fine powder on my hand and then I make that powder wet that makes it sticky, any dirt that I come in contact with is going to stick to my hand. All right. So what you're going to see over the course of a couple innings will be my hand will start to darken because it might look like a substance, but it's not. It's just sticky rosin that has dirt in it. Now, I was a guy, so here's the thing. I threw a split-fingered fastball, right? I did not want the ball to stick to my fingers ever. So I didn't want rosin in between my fingers. So I would wash the insides of my fingers between innings with alcohol if it got too sticky. However, there are other guys that throw sinkers, certain breaking balls, who will want the ball to be extra, extra sticky, and they'll just let their hand muddy up. Now, the umpires can certainly say, hey, listen, you got to wash it off. That's fine. But they have to acknowledge that just washing it off isn't going to change the fact that it's sticky, because you go back to the rosin, you have more moisture, it gets stickier. Your hand's going to look dark no matter what, right? And if you touch your hat all the time, you'll see that Major League Baseball players' hats a lot of times will get dark under the brim or dark at the cap. Also, guys like Gaylord Perry that used to cheat, they would use Vaseline on the inside of their caps. They would use Vaseline on the inside of their bottom lower lip because it stayed there. And you see guys that used to do this a lot. That was what they were doing, and then they'd lick their hands. Anyway, so your hand's going to be – so Max's hand was clearly in a non-agreeable state to the umpires. He went back. I'm sure he watched it. But he came back, and you could see the way he was arguing. He didn't do – in his mind, he didn't do it. He followed their orders. He did what they said to do. And this ambiguous rule needs to be fixed and changed. Rosin, I don't know how you do that, but the umpires are put in a really bad situation now, once again, because they're not given a set rules of engagement. And anytime you give somebody the ability to engage without rules defined, you have massive, massive problems.
White Sox pitcher Louis Giolito left Tuesday's game versus the Phillies after 6 innings with a no-hitter. He had thrown 102 pitches, but they shut him down. The no-hitter was broken up by the relievers. I can't imagine. I think I know what you're going to say, but any chance you get off the hill with a no-hitter after 6?
So whoever's back at the control center with the curse button, be ready. There's no chance. None that I come out of the game. And to the point where if you told me I was coming out, I would still go out to the mound and force you to have all 3 of us standing on the mound at some point. No chance. And when I played, that probably wouldn't have happened. It's a different game now. There are and guys being okay with it, I think, is an enormous red flag to how these guys are being raised in the minor leagues. Yes, you respect your manager and your coach, but at some point you earn the right to help coach yourself if you're responsible and your coach trusts you and stuff like that. And no, none, absolutely none.
Reports are the trade is official. Aaron Rodgers to the New York Jets. He is going to wear number 8 in New York, the college number, while at Cal. Here are the details per Adam Schefter. So the Jets and the Packers are swapping first-round picks. Here's what the Jets receive. Aaron Rodgers, pick 15, and a 2023 fifth-round pick. So they get the 15th pick, which is Green Bay's, and they're getting their 5th-round pick this year. The Packers, in return, are getting pick 13, a 2023 second-round pick, which is number 42. They have 2 of those. So the Jets still have a second-round pick this year. The 42 overall selection in round 2, a 6th-round pick, and then the conditional pick for next year. Here is what many said was the hang-up. The conditional pick is a second-round pick that becomes a first-round pick next year if Aaron Rodgers plays 65% of the plays in New York for the Jets in 2023. The 65% of snaps taken, Chad, is probably where the biggest part of the negotiation was hung up.
That and, we've talked to former GMs that said the easiest part of this deal, or at least one that right now you're going to be talking about, is probably between a second to a fourth round conditional pick, and the Packers will argue for a first round. That first round be in play with that conditional pick. So I see that, and I think Packers won on that end in getting what they wanted, because that's not a high bar to meet. 65% of available snaps. They should get that based on Aaron Rodgers not being hurt a ton. They should get that first-round pick next year. So I say a win for the Packers, the negotiation from that standpoint. A win for all of us. We just mentioned it, but now that this saga is over and Aaron Rodgers is officially a New York Jet, that's a win for everyone.
But also consider for the Packers, I mean, it's a nice deal here because they're trading away a player they weren't going to keep. They decided they were moving on. They have gone through this saga back and forth till they finally said, you know what, we're parting ways. They get the second-round pick this year. I know they wanted a first. They get the second-round pick and a sixth. They're giving up a fifth, and they're swapping first-rounders, so they move up 2 spots in the draft. And, Chad, regardless if he's hurt, if he decides to retire mid-season, whatever, who knows, they're getting a second-round pick next year as well as a part of this compensation that moves to a first when we all expect him to play at least a little over half of the season for New York. Meanwhile, Super Bowl expectations are alive and well for a franchise in New York that has not played on Sunday Night Football since 2012.
Well, I think
about that.
Yeah, it's crazy. And now this is the storyline that we all wanted. Everything that Aaron Rodgers does with the Jets will be dissected.
Everything.
Even more so than when he was a Green Bay Packer, and we're going to love that. I think he's fully capable of handling that. I think the media market and media scrutiny in New York is wildly overblown, simply because everyone now is covered when you're a superstar quarterback to that level to a big-time extent. So that's going to be nothing new for Aaron Rodgers. I do wonder if in this the compensatory pick or the one that's going to shift up to a first-round pick, if the Jets were arguing about legitimate on-field success being the precursor to it being bumped up to a first-round pick. An example, if I'm negotiating, I'd say, if we make the playoffs or if we win a playoff game, if we reach the divisional round, right? So get the bye in the divisional round or win a wild card playoff game, you get a first-round pick. That's where I would have started. And maybe that is where the Jets started, and they ended up at, no, it's going to be if you play 65% of the snaps, we're going to get that first-round pick if you want to make this deal done before the draft.
But also, I mean, the Packers were at a month and a half ago, demanding a first-round pick this year.
Yeah.
And so they also gave on that.
They just traded their first-round picks.
Yeah, they swapped them.
Yeah.
They moved 2 spots each.
That was probably the compromise. Okay, we're not going to get your first-round pick this year, but then what we'll do is make it where if Aaron Rodgers is our quarterback for the majority of the time, then you're going to get a first-round pick next year. There's your first-round pick, right? In return next year, as long as he plays.
Yeah, and
if I'm negotiating for the Jets, though, I want to make it if we're successful, like we think we will be and can be, then you're getting a first-round pick in return.
And also, I mean, the Jets give up draft capital here, but it is a great trade compared to what we're seeing in Denver play out right now. For what they gave up for Russell Wilson with the firsts, multiples. Like if you're just comparing that, everyone's going to say, oh, this is a great trade for Green Bay. It's a great trade for the Jets, too. They were 5-2 with Wilson last year, and they knew they weren't going anywhere with him as the starter, I'm saying, when they made the switch to Mike White. And now they bring in Rodgers, who is going to elevate them into a Super Bowl contender immediately and has just by this trade going through.
Yeah, I'd say the difference is the 5-year age difference.
Sure.
Russell Wilson, 34. Aaron Rodgers now, pushing 40? 39? I think he's 39.
38. Okay.
About to be 40. That's the big one where, yes, I agree with you. Jets made out like winners compared to the Broncos in terms of compensation, but the compensation is for someone you believe is going to be your quarterback for 5 or 6 years.
Well, do the
to end out their career like the Broncos did.
Want that? No.
Well, now they're probably thinking, we'll actually, give you some other picks back to take this quarterback back if it's going to be like this.
The other thing
to get him off the books for us.
Other thing that pops in my mind are look at the list of quarterbacks in the AFC. I mean, we've already kind of thrown him in there with the conversation anyway, but now it's official. Aaron Rodgers is in the AFC, and with the expectations that the Jets have, it's not like he's being traded to the NFC and where he was playing, and it's kind of, a foregone conclusion that they're going places, right? You start looking at teams in the haves and the have-nots. We just start in the own division with Buffalo. And where Miami was midway through the season with Tua playing well and healthy, and the bar that has to be reached just to meet up with Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow on the opposite side of the bracket in the playoffs. I mean, it's a fascinating storyline for a Hall of Fame career with one Super Bowl to show for it. And now it's Super Bowl or bust expectations in the Big Apple.
Well, and this is where he really cements his legend.
Yeah.
I mean, you win. I always think this about, Peyton Manning got to more Super Bowls than Aaron Rodgers has, but won the one with Indy. And then it was not getting to it and losing, but winning that second one is just, it puts Peyton Manning in a different stratosphere of winners. That he won, not only won 2 Super Bowls, but won 2 Super Bowls with 2 different organizations. I think this is what could put Aaron Rodgers over the top. Not that he's not going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer regardless, but it puts him into a different echelon of winning and winners to win that second Super Bowl. It's going to be fun to watch to see what all happens with Aaron Rodgers. But I think this is, this is his chance to, I think, just cement himself in a legendary status.
And I'm just thinking now the roster that he now goes to.
Well, this is, so the conference, you mentioned the AFC.
Yeah.
I mean, this is like the Cher, Madonna, Prince division. In that, think about all of the quarterbacks that just go, you say one name. They go Mahomes, Allen, Lamar, Deshaun, Rodgers, A-Rod, where you want to go. I mean, just go down the list of superstar QBs in that conference. It's incredible. And now you've got Burrow, Herbert. I mean, it is an embarrassment of riches in terms of quarterback talent in the AFC for next year.
That's why, going into the draft, I can't pass on Stroud at 2. I couldn't do it. And I know
the quarterbacks.
The Texans aren't a quarterback away, but they are. They've got to start.
But
there,
let's also here's what
start looking ahead at how young these guys are.
Here's what, when you stack those great quarterbacks one on top of the other in a conference, it leads you to a situation where you've got more quarterback needy teams within that conference. You got one team in the Carolina Panthers who traded up to number 1 to get Bryce Young, NFC team. Outside of that, who do you have drafting at the top that need quarterback? Texans, AFC. Colts, AFC.
Yes.
The next on the list, Raiders, will need one in short order, AFC. Start going down the list. Titans, possibly.
Sure.
At 11, AFC, 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 because this is true with every team in the NFL, but especially in a conference like that where you've got superstar quarterbacks, one after the other, you're going to have to knock off 2 or 3 of these guys to reach a Super Bowl and to get a chance to win one. Well, it creates an insane amount of demand for those teams that don't have that guy who can get that done within the conference.
So I quickly, as you were saying that, I'm looking up the schedule for the Jets this upcoming year. They do not play the Packers. So I was trying to figure out, okay, whenever the schedule's announced, we're going to have that type of rematch.
Oh, yeah.
But they are going to be playing the NFC East, which was the standard, the bar last year in the NFC with the crossover divisional schedules that we'll see. And then, of course, you get the 2 games against Buffalo, which are going to be awesome.
So you're going to get Aaron Rodgers versus Jalen Hurts, Aaron Rodgers versus Dak Prescott.
Yeah.
Pretty fun. I don't know that the Aaron Rodgers, Daniel Jones quarterback showdowns is big, but that's New York versus New York.
Exactly.
You get next year, too.
Yep. And then just the top quarterback matchups throughout are going to be a blast. Again, the trade details, and we can pop it back up here, guys, but the trade details pretty simple in regards to the first round and how it affects the first round on Thursday. Green Bay Packers are getting the 13th pick, but they're swapping with the Jets. So the Jets are falling back to where Green Bay is selecting at 15. So when you see that the Jets are giving up their first-round pick, they're swapping first-round picks, plus the Jets are getting a fifth-round pick this year. The Packers, of course, they're giving up Aaron Rodgers. They're getting pick 13. They're getting a second-round pick this year and a sixth-round pick this year. Plus, they have a second-round pick next year that becomes a first-round pick if Rodgers plays 65% of the snaps in 2023.
Hall of Fame game this year. Aaron Rodgers versus Deshaun Watson. They'll each play one snap in that game, just to say that they played.
Maybe that was part of the
August
compensation.
3rd, one snap. We'll give you one handoff in that game. That's it.
I would take the under.
Yes.
More headlines across the league next on Hot Mic.
What you're experiencing is the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafting flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation, and pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, it ain't this. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Come on.
Welcome into Outkick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader. I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life. ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in a land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the #1 overall pick.
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna lib. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose.
The scary thing, Tommy, is in the history of this government, I've never seen them give anything back that they've taken.
Oh no, they never do.
And they won't.
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human being. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it, people.
I believe this person is the greatest player anybody alive will ever see. How can you hate Derek Jeter? A guy's on-base percentage tells me his batting eye, and a guy's slugging percentage tells me if he's a threat. That's the kind of guy that throws a no-hitter, that effectively wild guy.
Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, the bold taste of a Southern legend.
Just like that, the final hour is here on this Monday edition. Hutton and Withrow for Hot Mic across the Outkick network. If you're watching on YouTube, we hope you'll subscribe while you're there. You can watch any of the great programs here on the network. Hope you'll share and like the video as well that you can watch on demand anytime. Streaming live at Outkick.com as well. Chad, the news is official as we begin the third hour. Aaron Rodgers has been officially traded to the New York Jets, Green Bay, and the New York Jets coming to terms on a contract, on the trade where the deal ultimately comes down to the conditional pick next year, where it becomes a first-rounder next year if he plays 65% of the snaps or more, of the plays or more for the Jets this upcoming season. They get a first-round pick if that happens. If not, it's a second-round pick next year. And they're swapping first-round picks this year, plus Green Bay is getting a second-round pick, one of the 2 second-rounders for the Jets. So the Jets this year still keep their a first-round pick. They didn't trade a first-round pick this year, potentially next year, but they also keep one of their 2 second-round picks this year, which I think is also important.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's an argument to be, this is when you know it's a good deal, good trade, a fair trade, is that there's an argument to be made that either team made out well in this. That you can see there's a viable argument about what side got the best part of this deal. And I say that to say that is a great indicator that it was a fair trade. It's just like if you put out a poll question and it's 50-50 on the poll question, you think, well, that's a pretty good question because it's perfectly divided. I think this is a pretty well divided up trade package in terms of compensation for Aaron Rodgers, who, with all the excitement and fervor about this, it's only a 2023 thing because he may not come back for 2024.
Chad, I want to pass along what Ed Werder sent out, which is amazing. Just when you look at the numbers, his Rodgers, just an average season for Rodgers would be the greatest single season in yards and touchdown passes in Jets history. So Aaron Rodgers averages per season 4,193 yards passing. The Jets single season record holder is Joe Namath back in 1967 with 4,007 yards. And Rodgers averages over the courses of his career 33 touchdown passes. The single season record holder is Ryan Fitzpatrick with 31. That is crazy to consider the have and the have-nots just with everyone versus Rodgers in regards to the quarterback they just traded for and the all-in aspect. But really, I mean, they're all in with their roster. They have a very young core. They have the offensive and defensive rookie of the year from last season with Wilson and Sauce Gardner. And they get, Breece Hall back in the backfield. And again, they still have a first-round pick at 15 overall. And they have pick 41 in the second round.
And not that the weather is some breeze or nothing in New York, New Jersey late in the season. But think about Aaron Rodgers putting up those average stats in Green Bay. Yeah. Those are his average years in Green Bay. And he's not been doing this in Atlanta or in an indoor stadium. He's been doing this in Green Bay with late fall and winter in Green Bay. Not exactly pleasant. And now he goes to the Jets where, again, it's not pleasant, but it's also not a frozen tundra.
I'm just thinking about all the storylines real quick. Robert Saleh, time to win. But Nathaniel Hackett, a year ago, was brought in as a first-time head coach in Denver because Aaron Rodgers might be available. And literally within the hour of Rodgers deciding to stay in Green Bay, they trade for Russell Wilson. And now Hackett's the OC with the New York Jets.
I mean, how quickly will he get the blame if things aren't going well early on for the Jets based on last year? Here's what I'm thinking about also right now.
I think the media is going to give it to Rodgers, though.
Let me give you another name that comes to mind immediately.
Don't go well. Go ahead.
Zach Wilson.
Yeah.
What's that guy thinking right now?
I mean,
my ceiling is Sam Darnold. Is what he's thinking. Backup somewhere. Occasional starter.
All the great players on his roster are tweeting, exhilaration for the trade. They're tweeting Sauce Gardner, Breece Hall, several others. They have changed their social media avatars to Aaron Rodgers wearing number 8 at Cal. So, I mean, and that, by the way, he's wearing number 8 in New York.
Yeah.
With the throwback. What's your gut feeling on this? How do you think it turns out? Just gut feeling for Rodgers in New York.
I think it's going to work.
Meaning,
I think they're going to get to. They're going to get to the divisional round of the playoffs at minimum. I think that, to me, that's the bar for working right now. But I mean, look, I also understand this is an organization that has not won. So to me, getting to the divisional round of the playoffs is a win for the Jets. They're also doing this to win a Super Bowl. So if in let's say he plays 3 years. Let's get wild here. 39 right now. Let's say he plays until he's 42. And if they don't win a Super Bowl in those 3 years, it's a failure.
Well, but
that's a tough level to go to, but I think it's probably
the divisional round,
not the way they want it. If they don't,
sounds crazy. I'm with you.
If they don't win it all in 3 years with them. This year, I think divisional round.
Divisional round, though, is not created equal for Aaron Rodgers. Because if you win the division and potentially you potentially get a bye and you lose in the divisional round, that's what has happened with him in Green Bay.
Yeah.
He's got to do more than that.
Winning a wild card game, you're saying, would be bigger than that.
No, I'm saying like he's the divisional round just to get there. They're
about
when they're the number 1 seed and they lose, you look at it like it's a massive failure. They've got to.
I don't think it's a massive win if this happens, but I'll just say, okay, not bad if they win a playoff game. That would be my standard for what needs to happen.
And we're judging this based on the list of quarterbacks that run the AFC and run the league. But he's one of them now. Like we're just doing just a straight one-time joining a roster.
The Madonna, Cher, Prince, one name quarterback conference is the AFC.
Now, if you start going through the list of the quarterbacks that we would put in that cat, imagine if you go through all those quarterbacks and you're a team that doesn't have that dude, any of those guys. How do you feel today?
Not good.
And it was already official, right? But unofficially
not good.
official.
If you're trying to sell a one-name quarterback as Sam and you're Sam Howell and the Commanders, you're probably not feeling too great about your chances right now.
Well, but so that goes back to
Ryan,
now
Tannehill.
So now we tie in the draft.
Not a good feeling. I mean, and that's why let's go down the list once again. Colts.
Now it's time to invest.
Texans, Colts, Raiders, Titans. 4 teams drafting in the top 11 that are ultimately looking for their Aaron or their Burrow or their Deshaun or Lamar or go down the list, Allen, of one-name celebrity great quarterbacks in the NFL. That's what these AFC teams are after now. And the Jets just got theirs. So kudos to them. This could also backfire.
So you're saying that...
Let's also acknowledge that with everything that has gone on with Aaron Rodgers and everything else, this could ultimately backfire. But my gut reaction, Hutton, is I don't think it does. I think they're successful with him.
Dov Kleiman tweets out, Brett Favre played for the Jets on his age 39 season in 2008, after 15-plus seasons with Green Bay. Aaron Rodgers, 39, repeating the exact same script. That's also crazy to consider.
Yeah.
Exactly 15 years later.
Ultimately, we thought
Aaron
Rodgers didn't like the way Brett Favre treated him early on in his career, but maybe he just wanted to be Brett Favre.
And now it's
following his path.
Now it's Jordan Love's chance. It's taken a while.
Ask me my gut reaction to how it's going to go for Jordan Love and the Packers.
How's it going to go for Jordan Love and the Packers?
Terrible. That's my gut feeling. It's going to be awful. He's not any good. And I think they know that. And that's why they were desperate to do anything to please Aaron Rodgers, short of making him general manager the last couple of years. I think they would have given him that title after they decided to draft Jordan Love and not tell him about it in the first round. So my gut reaction tells me the old Packers are going to be in the QB market next offseason.
Since we're spitballing here, we're reacting to the trade, and now we're down the Jordan Love path. Our previous guest, Hendon Hooker, if you start thinking about teams that make sense for his style and teams that could give him a year, Green Bay's one of them because they need to figure out about Jordan Love. And if we're going down the McVay list of type of offense, one of them's in Green Bay with LaFleur.
Yeah.
So that
Green Bay becomes the king of pissing off your starting quarterback by drafting a quarterback in the first round at that point. Going back to Aaron Rodgers with Brett Favre there. I think that makes a lot of sense because I just don't buy Jordan Love being a real factor. He's going to be their starter this year. He's going to get every
knows, man?
opportunity, and maybe he proves me wrong. And maybe Matt LaFleur is just such a great offensive coach that he can devise a system around him that's going to work. My gut feeling on this is the Packers will be drafting a quarterback or searching for a free agent or a trade a year from now to find their guy. And they'll join a long list of teams that are trying to do that.
Looking for the one name.
Looking for that one-name QB.
Are you with me? The one-name QB for Houston should not be Will Levis if they're drafting quarterback at 2. Now, if a team's trading up, I don't know why you're trading up to number 2 to draft Will Levis over C.J. Stroud. I don't get this consensus drop all of a sudden. Vegas is leading the charge on that with the odds for the number 2 overall selection. I don't know what's a smokescreen or not. I don't know if the quarterbacks dropping off the face of the earth like we saw last year is about to happen with the top 10 this year. Who knows? But one thing I do know is Will Levis, to me, is in no way in the same conversation as what C.J. Stroud was in college. And I'll argue this. Talent around him or not, that dude had his moments. And when it came time to step up in some big moments, I saw C.J. Stroud do that. Not every time, but I can show you examples. Meanwhile, I just see excuses for Levis. And, Chad, I just scratch my head at this guy has good size and the speed. And there's really no knock in regards to that on C.J. Stroud. And, Levis has the look of a franchise quarterback and the love from the scouts and apparently some of these coaches. I just didn't see the production. And that's why it's hard for me to wrap my head around the fact that, what we're hearing on Levis going as the number 2 quarterback selected is true. I just can't buy it. I can't put my money behind it the way Vegas wants me to expect and trying to convince me to do it.
No, I think the good bet right now is taking the plus money on C.J. Stroud.
And,
still at number 2.
Second player selected, not quarterback, but second player.
So that could include someone trading up to get him. I think that's where the smart money would lie. I cannot buy, no matter what Vegas tells us right now, and Vegas is usually right, and we're usually wrong when you challenge Vegas, but I cannot buy that Will Levis is suddenly this second quarterback taken behind Bryce Young. I think it's more likely that Will Levis lasts until a double-digit pick than he is the number 2 pick. But maybe I'll be proven completely wrong on Thursday. I just don't see it.
What will Kiper be like if Levis goes number 2?
I saw the clip's been circling today of Mel Kiper way back in the day just going ballistic when Trent Dilfer was passed up by the Colts, and they had Jim Harbaugh there, and then the Colts, whoever the GM was for the Colts, came on and just bashed the living hell out of Mel Kiper for that. He said this is why they're going to pick second every year in the draft, is because they make stupid decisions like this. That he may go that much scorched earth if Will Levis falls in this draft. That's how much he loves the guy.
Kiper. Like, he's the GOAT of the NFL draft as we know it. But, man, he's still sticking by it, though, Chad, that Levis is the top player for him at quarterback.
I think Mel Kiper is one of those crazy success stories. Like, 'cause you're right, he is the draft guy, right? But it's time and place. Like, he got in early when not a lot of people were doing this, year round.
He was the only one doing it.
He was trying to do. And
in
then
the basement of his home.
Yeah, ESPN in Baltimore.
Yeah.
ESPN snatched him up early on when they got the rights to the NFL draft. And as the draft became this gigantic television event, Mel Kiper became more and more of a celebrity.
Chad, as you know, I'm not one to make appointment viewing for the National Basketball Association.
Mm-hmm.
Wake me up whenever the conference finals roll around. That's not the case this year. I was watching pregame coverage of the first round on Saturday with LeBron and Dillon Brooks going face-to-face and then watching that matchup. Yesterday, I'm watching Grizzlies and Kings and the investment there, and I'm thinking, this is exactly what the league needs. It's the controversy with the fouls, the suspensions, who should be, who shouldn't be, how we're reacting to Embiid not getting the suspension or getting tossed, but we see it from Draymond, what's intentional, what's not from Dillon Brooks, calling out the king, and then LeBron responding with the way he did. And, oh, by the way, the Warriors aren't dead, and we could see the matchup in round 2, and it just adds to the build and the drama. What is par for the course, though, and you pointed this out earlier, is Jalen Rose finding something to complain about other than a call on the court or who's getting the ball last in a game. And that's exactly what he's doing in response to Phil Jackson's comments.
Well, is there a more, Dan Dockich brought this point up, is there a more irrelevant pre-halftime and post-game NBA show than whatever ESPN does with Jalen Rose, considering the popularity of Inside the NBA on TNT? That is such a distant second place. I can't even tell you who's really on that show other than Jalen Rose. But regardless, Phil Jackson stated what a lot of Americans stated, in that I just think the NBA went too political back in the bubble year with all of the messages and the name changes in the back of the jersey to different social justice causes and all of that. And he said, I want basketball to be more about basketball. I want the NBA to be about the basketball and nothing else. This is not an uncommon opinion. But to Jalen Rose, this is one of the worst things you can say. And he essentially, accused him of racism and said that Phil Jackson, made his millions of dollars on the backs of great black players that he had over the years. And it's another ridiculous statement from Jalen Rose. My message is simple. If I'm the NBA or any other league, I have no message other than watch my sport. We got a great sport, a great product with great coaches and players. It's going to be played with integrity. The games are going to be officiated as best we can, and we're going to try to get your money. That's it. We want eyeballs and we want money. We celebrate and we support one cause here, and it's the cause of my league, the NBA. That's what we're all about, and that's what we're going to be about. And far too many leagues have decided to dip their toes in social justice causes, and because of that, I think you've got some failing viewership in certain leagues like the NBA. Now, I'm with you, Hutton. Give me more of this. Give me more of the on-court drama. Give me more of Dylan Brooks versus LeBron James. Give me more great basketball, high-scoring basketball being played between the Warriors and the Kings. That's a great series now at 2-2. And I think it's only going to get better.
With drama in the second quarter instead of the final 3 minutes.
Give me less Jalen Rose, though, and just being offended by anyone who's got an opinion that's unlike his. I don't think Phil Jackson said anything wrong with this. He just echoed what millions of people have echoed about the NBA. But I do like the series we're witnessing now, and I think there's more good things to come. Now, with Dylan Brooks calling out LeBron James that way and LeBron's response, really need that thing to go 2-2. Really need the Grizzlies to strike back. Because if not, this thing's over in 5, then Dylan Brooks didn't help anything with that message, LeBron James, because he may have taken a series that was going to go the distance and go 7. He may have helped make it a 5-game series by not just pissing off LeBron James, but waking up the entire team who played great in that game 3.
They did, but he also made comments prior to game 1. He's like, bring on LeBron. I'll be happy to knock him out.
Yeah, he said the Lakers would be a great opponent.
And LA won game 1, and everyone thought, oh, without Ja, they're done. And then the Grizzlies return serve. Both of these series have been fantastic. I expect both losing teams to rebound and play well. But, Chad, I'm with you. I mean, the best thing that could have happened for the league is Dylan Brooks actually steps up and lives up to the trash talk this weekend. Then you have LA return that serve to tie the series again. Because then you have the drama mount instead of, oh, hey, what is it? Draymond Light? Diet Draymond is what Dockett said.
Yeah, it's great. Diet Draymond Green.
It's very predictable that, oh, you don't step up to the king. You're not ready for that. I was hoping he was, because then you have the new star in the making, the new guy on the block that's living up to the talk instead of hyping up a fight and it's a one-off. There's still time for him to do that, right? I'm hoping that happens. I hope this is a Game 7 type series.
I want it to be a Game 7.
I want this to be an all-out war.
I want them going back to Memphis and it being a raucous environment and a chance at some point for the Grizzlies to advance. I just really feel like this thing is headed downhill for the Grizz after
And the biggest reason,
after the trash talk to LeBron James.
He didn't even wake up LeBron. He woke up the team, Anthony Davis and others.
Yeah.
That came out. It was 24-6 or something to begin the game. Coming up, we get back to the NFL draft. The big board at Outkick.com. Dan Z authors it. We'll hit where the quarterbacks will fall and how it dictates literally everything else we're going to see on Thursday. Big preview ahead on Hot Mic.
Primary complaint is when you let somebody cross the street while you're driving and they purposely take their time when they see that they are waiting for you crossing the street. That is my primary complaint, and it drives me crazy.
My primary complaint is people who talk on speakerphone in public.
People that chew too loud.
Number 1 pet peeve, telemarketers. Number 2 pet peeve, when people don't understand the menu that they're serving. Number 3 pet peeve, when people ask for change but they have no quarters. Number 4 pet peeve, parallel parking.
My primary complaint is I can't just go to a bar and have a nice quiet beer. There's all this live music every freaking where. Like, I'm just trying to go to a bar, relax, have a beer, watch the game, but no, we gotta have these guitar players and these bands. Why can't I just hang out and just relax, have a beer, and watch the Memphis Grizzlies? I mean, is that too much to ask?
I do not appreciate or condone anybody that litters. I think you got to keep your planet clean. It's turning your nose up to everybody that has to clean your up. Quit littering.
My primary complaint would be wobbly tables at restaurants.
Another pet peeve I have is no courtesy flushing. No one believes in that. Thank you. Another pet peeve I have is when people have AirPods in. Excuse me. Another pet peeve I have is when people have AirPods in and they're singing louder so everyone can hear what they're not supposed to listen to.
When people eat smelly food on the airplane.
Dishes left in the sink.
My primary complaint is when I'm out to eat with somebody and they bite their fork as they are putting the fork in their mouth to eat.
When people bite their fork and scrape that, and when they're eating dinner, you can hear like it's like nails on a chalkboard. Hell no.
My primary complaint is when people complain about me when I bite my fork.
Those folks who are in the airport talking on their cell phone very loud so everybody else can hear what they're saying even though we really don't care.
My primary complaint are drivers who do not stop on a pedestrian crosswalk. Period.
My last pet peeve is that when people text you, they text you that they're busy, or if you call them, they answer and say they can't talk. Either way, just don't respond. You can't text me, don't text me back. And if you can't answer the phone, don't answer the phone to tell me you can't talk.
Chad, we've been discussing, the winners of the Rodgers trade. It's official for those just joining us. Welcome back. Hot Mic across the Outkick Network. All of us are winners with this, right?
Oh, absolutely. I also just saw a tweet from our buddy. This from DraftKings tweeted this, and I don't know what the quote is. It just says, reminder, Zach Wilson said this about a veteran quarterback coming in. It's a short video. And I'm thinking this cannot be good for Zach Wilson, whatever it was that he said. And that's where my mind immediately popped was, boy, I'm thinking about Zach Wilson today. What a turn for his career. Not that we didn't already know what was
The big
coming.
board remains the same regardless of this trade. For Dan Z at Outkick.com, he joins us now. The final big board for Thursday's draft is in. Dan, thank you for the time as always. What do you make of the trade now being officially official, Rodgers to the Jets?
Yeah, I think the Packers did pretty well, to be honest. I mean, assuming that Rodgers wasn't going to go anywhere else, they held firm for a long time and got at least a second-round pick, or at least 2 second-round picks, likely a first-round pick out of it, although next year, and moved up a couple of spots. I thought, honestly, the Packers did pretty well. I tweeted this out, it takes the Jets from like the 6th best team in the AFC to 5th, 4th, maybe. I don't know. I'm not buying it yet that the Jets are automatic Super Bowl contenders.
Well, and that's, we're talking about what is success. Hutton asked me, what's success for the Jets? And I think, well, first off, it's him playing 3 years, right? That's a big part of this. And then obviously they're going for broke. So winning a Super Bowl in those 3 years. But in year one, Dan, I said, if they make the divisional round in this AFC, that's a big success for this Jets team. How would you define what that looks like from your perspective, but also from the Jets' perspective in this first year, what success would look like with Aaron Rodgers?
I think it's Super Bowl or bust, to be honest with you, from everyone's perspective. If you're a Jets fan today and you don't reach the Super Bowl, that's a failure. If you're Aaron Rodgers and you've only reached and won 1 Super Bowl, and you go to this team that's supposedly all they need is a quarterback. So that's you, buddy. So he has to be successful. And I think from a Jets front office standpoint, you make this move, you give up some picks. I don't know how it's anything short of at least a Super Bowl appearance. I really don't, for anyone involved.
Well, the fact that you're saying, though, about the Jets, that's a massive win for the Jets.
Well,
to not even give up a first-round pick this year to get that guy.
Here's something else, Dan, that I think is kind of a win for the Jets in a weird way, and this is like the reverse compliment. Them giving up draft picks seems damaging now, where in years past we wouldn't have cared because they were terrible at drafting players. But they've actually been pretty good in the draft in recent years to build up this roster the way they have with young players.
And just to follow on
so
that,
it's a little bit different.
They still have their first. They're moving back 2 spots. They still have their first-round pick, and they have 2 second-round picks this year, so they still have a second-round pick as well to do exactly what they've been doing with Joe Douglas and company.
Yeah, the big losers today are anyone who hates watching the Jets on television, because I'm about to write a piece here for Outkick looking at their opponents for the schedule release will be next month, but looking at the Jets opponents, you could make a case that 10 of their games are deserving of being on primetime. Now, the NFL record for primetime games in a season for one team is 6.
And that's the maximum.
I would love to see the NFL be like, you know what? We're going to throw that out because we want Aaron Rodgers and the Jets on. I mean, look at the teams they play: the Eagles, the Cowboys, the Giants, the Chiefs, the Chargers, the Bills twice, the Dolphins twice. You could make an argument for Browns, Jets, Patriots, Jets. I mean, they're going to want this team in the spotlight as often as they can get. It's actually going to be tough for them to decide which game goes into prime time over, again, like I'm having trouble figuring out which one. Like you got to go Chiefs, right? Like we got to have Rodgers and the Chiefs. We got to have Jets, Giants in prime time. The Battle of New York with Aaron Rodgers, Cowboys. Man, if you don't like watching the Jets, this is not your season.
You're right. Dan Z with us. What are you buying for the number 2 pick? What do you actually believe with quarterback, defense? Is Houston trading out? Are they going to draft CJ Stroud? Are they actually taking Levis? Of all the buzz, where do you think it actually settles on Thursday, Dan?
I mean, this is the crux of the draft, really. We're going to find out very quickly if the CJ Stroud stuff is smoke or if it's fire, because Houston, I think, wants to get out of number 2. I do believe that they would like to get out of number 2. The problem is everybody's trying to move back in this draft. The Packers are apparently the only team that wants to move up in this draft. Everyone else is trying to move down. And the problem is if everyone wants to move down, then no one wants to move up. So the question here is someone going to move up into that 2 spot for CJ Stroud? At this point, I would say no, that's not going to happen. The most likely scenario, I mean, Vegas seems to think that Will Levis is now the favorite to go number 2. I don't think so. Because I think the Colts are really the only team I would think might do that. I think they can wait at 4 if they want to roll the dice, which I think they should. And I'm not convinced that Houston is going to be able to go anywhere. And at that point, I really buy that they're not going to take a quarterback. They just brought in a head coach who's defensively minded. And if he's not in love with one of these quarterbacks and he's got a shot to take arguably the best defensive player in the draft, or it'll be the best defensive player in the draft on their board, whether it's a Tyree Wilson or Will Anderson. So ultimately, no, I don't think Stroud goes 2. And I don't think Houston's going to be able to find a trade partner. I think they end up getting stuck at 2 and then taking whichever player's higher on their board.
You know, history tells us that, 1, maybe 2 of these quarterbacks will fall further than when most people expected them to go in the draft. Who are you betting on making that fall right now, Dan? When you look at CJ Stroud, Will Levis, Anthony Richardson, Hendon Hooker is not expected to go until later in the first round, so I'm excluding him from this. Is it one of those guys? Is it 2 of those guys? Is it maybe all 3 of those guys based on what could happen?
I don't think Levis is going to fall outside the top 5. I buy that the Colts are in. That's their guy. If not, and they're just making noise to make people think that, then, man, good on them. That's really good work. I don't think Levis falls. Richardson, I'm having a hard time figuring out where he's going to go. I think at some point somebody gets jumpy, and I can't see Stroud sliding, say, outside the top 8. I would be shocked if he fell past 8. Someone will make a move up at that point. But Richardson could be the Justin Fields of this draft, that middle of the first round, which is honestly, with everything we thought about Anthony Richardson, is still high from where he was before the combine. I mean, he was a fringe first-round pick, early second. Some had him as late as like a 3rd, and then all of a sudden he became this surefire top 5 pick. And it's possible that we all just overreacted throughout the process. And he's always been a mid to late first-round pick. Again, the combine performance, some things got people excited about him, but I think Richardson is probably at the biggest risk to fall, as far as maybe like middle of the first round, 15, 16. I don't see Stroud outside the top 8. I don't see Levis outside the top 5.
So in regards to going back to Houston at 2, and looking at your big board, where do you, and Dan Z with us from Outkick, and you could get the full big board available now at Outkick.com. So Tyree Wilson, Will Anderson at the top. You can have your pick there. Where does it become necessary to be like, okay, we're going to trade back, potentially give up on the opportunity of drafting one of those 2, but we could still end up with another edge guy or Jalen Carter or the top corner, wherever you want to take it. Where is the value for either Wilson or Anderson versus the rest of the defensive group on your board?
I think they're both head and shoulders, at least among edge rushers. I would put them in a tier of their own. I know some people are all of a sudden low on Anderson. I think there's a little bit of prospect fatigue there, but I have those guys far and away as the best edge rushers in this draft. And then I've got Miles Murphy next, and I have him at 10 overall, where I've got Anderson and Wilson both inside the top 5. So I do think there's a significant drop-off. The interesting thing when it comes to teams talking about trading down here is a lot of reports today, I found this fascinating, is that, one anonymous GM says there are less than 15 players on their team's board in which they give a first-round grade, which I think is really interesting. And it also sort of doesn't make sense if everyone's trying to trade back, because my thought would be, well, then we got to get one of those 15 guys, especially if we're on the fringe. If we're picking in that, 14 through 18 range, we better make sure we get one of these first rounders. So at what point is trading back too far going to possibly have you making a first-round pick of a guy you don't even have graded in the first round? That's the divide I'm wondering about here. Is that true? Is it true that there's really only 15 guys who are worthy of a first-round pick or less, with all the chatter we're hearing about, potential trade backs?
When you look at the top 3 receivers that may go in the first round, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Zay Flowers, Jordan Addison, is there any big separation between those 3 guys? Do you look at one of them a notch higher than the other 2?
No, not really. I actually like Quentin Johnston a little bit better than all the guys you mentioned. Well, I'm sorry. You put Jackson Smith and Jigba in there. I have him in his own tier, so I actually took him out of the equation for myself.
Okay.
To me, he is the first round graded wide receiver for me, and the only one in this draft. The only one that I would take in the top 10 to 15 picks. None of the other guys really impressed me that much, but I do have Johnston maybe a notch above. I understand that a lot of people are super high on Zay Flowers right now. I tried to get there with him. I went back, I looked at the film. I can't see all of this sudden talk that he's a potential top 10 pick. I mean, he's a 5'9" slot guy. He could be a nice player. We've seen guys like that succeed. But a guy like that coming out of Boston College, I don't know that he showed enough in college. He didn't really wow at the combine. Again, a guy at that size, I want to see some numbers at the combine that really make me go, he is a physical freak. Maybe I'm wrong, could be wrong. Wouldn't be the first time I was wrong. But I'm not buying the Zay Flowers buzz. And I don't like Jordan Addison at all. He reminds me just too much of a typical USC wide receiver that gets a lot more hype than he's worth. I'd be fine with him somewhere in like the middle to late second round, but I have a feeling he's going to get well overdrafted in this one. I can't get there with Addison. I think, again, this is not to disparage Zay Flowers in any way, except that I'm not as high on him as everybody else is. I still think he's a very nice player, has a chance to be a very good NFL player, but I'm not nearly as high on him as other players. And I'd much rather have Quentin Johnston's size and speed combination than Zay Flowers.
Yeah, and it's tough to find that size this year in this wide receiving core. I think Tillman's the second biggest receiver, Cedric Tillman from Tennessee, compared to Quentin Johnston. Everyone else is small, quick, slot guy, very specific X receivers in regards to both of those guys. Cam Smith has covered some of these receivers you've talked about, Dan. And he's also defended the quarterbacks at the top of this draft, especially from the SEC. He's one of the top corners out of South Carolina. He says that the toughest quarterback he faced was Hendon Hooker, not Richardson, not Levis. What do you make of that comment?
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting, to be honest with you. He, as you said, he faced Levis not last year. Levis actually missed the South Carolina game, but he faced Levis in 2021. And Levis didn't actually play particularly well in that game. But, Smith still had some praise for him. Like, yeah, I could see it, even though he didn't play particularly well in that game. But immediately when I asked him which of the 3, he said Hendon Hooker without skipping a beat. Like, he's by far the most accurate of the 3 mentioned. That his short ball game, his deep ball game, that everything you'd want in a quarterback, Hendon Hooker was the guy. But perhaps the most interesting thing that he didn't really say is he kind of said, I didn't really face Richardson. I was like, well, what do you mean? He's like, well, you didn't throw the ball against us. And I was like, well, do you think that was game plan, your defense? He goes, I don't know. Didn't throw the ball against us. And he had this look on his face. Like, again, it wasn't anything he said. It was what he didn't say. He really seemed to be, at least to me, implying that he was not afraid of Anthony Richardson, that they were not worried about Anthony Richardson throwing the ball. Now, they did run for almost 400 yards in the game, so he didn't have to throw. But I would have some concern with a cornerback's reaction that he had when I mentioned Anthony Richardson, and then followed up on Anthony Richardson. He did not seem overly complimentary of him.
Yeah, what's funny is they lost, I think, 38-6 to Florida in that game where they ran all over them and they upset and beat Tennessee. But yet it's still Hooker who's more memorable to him. He
easily ranked Richardson as the 3rd of those 3.
Bijan Robinson, among the top players in the entire draft, you've got him at number 2 on your board. He's going to end up playing for a Super Bowl contender, because of his position, right? A team may trade up for him. He's definitely one of the 15 or so. If there's 15 to 18 first rounders, he's one of them. And he's worthy of moving up a couple of spots to draft if, in fact, you're in need of someone that's going to make you instantly better week to week. That's what he provides.
I wouldn't trade up for him though. See, that's the rub here when it comes to running backs. I think we touched on this a little bit last time I was on, which is that you draft a guy like Bijan, a running back, when it's a luxury item. It's not necessarily something you need. So no one needs Bijan Robinson in their lineup, but they'd love to have him. Now the question is, you're already drafting a running back potentially very high, which is history has shown is not great value. If you then tack on trading up and giving up more draft capital to get a running back, any running back, even if he happens to be a generational running back, unless he does something we've quite literally never seen before, I don't think there's the value in trying to trade up for him, because again, it's just so hard to justify not only taking a running back in the first round, but giving up additional capital, which is why I actually think, like you guys said, he's going to end up on a very good team that can just sit there and wait. And honestly, if another team jumped ahead of me and grabbed him, I wouldn't be that upset, even if he was the next guy on my board and I was like, hey, we're going to go get this guy. If someone jumped up and was willing to spend mid-round picks to do it, I think at that point you just tip your hat and move on.
Man, I just think, it does depend on the organization, but him with Buffalo or throwing Kansas City or any of these, like the do-it-all player that he can provide, instant. I mean, it's another weapon that makes good teams great.
But think of how far those teams you just mentioned have to move up to do that. I mean, we're talking about teams.
I don't know how far. I don't know how far because of his position.
Well, you've got the Eagles sitting there at 10. That's definitely a spot where you might look for him. I like him to Detroit as well. They theoretically could take him at 6 if they really felt good about it. I don't think they will, but they could. And then, Detroit picks again at 18. Even if, let's say, it was going to be 18 to Detroit and you're, I don't know, Buffalo or KC, that's 10 spots. You've got to move 10 or more in the first round. That is a lot of capital you'd have to give up.
Still, those dudes, you know where I'm coming from on this. They're not worried about, they know they're going to be picking low again next year. It's just, Buffalo desperately needs that run game going. Like that's the investment I would be making. And if you're not wanting to pay $10 million a year for a running back at the top, and I get why, you go young, but they've tried that. I would go with the best guy with the potential of being a true game breaker for me in January, which they haven't had.
But Buffalo has a lot of other holes too, that for a team that's been a perennial contender.
Yeah, you're right.
Like they have been, their defense got pushed around in the playoffs. Their defensive line got pushed around by the Bengals offensive line, and the Bengals offensive line wasn't very good, and it hasn't been very good. And they didn't do anything against them. Like that's a much more pressing need for Buffalo right now. Kansas City, I could get there with, just because I don't know. I mean, they won the Super Bowl, right? And they didn't really get gutted in free agency or anything. The core of the team, for the most part, is back. So I could maybe see it a little more with KC. But if I'm Buffalo, I think they have way too many holes to fill to be giving up too much capital to take a running back.
Dan Z, you can check out the full draft board, the big board, available at Outkick.com. Great work as usual, man. Thank you for the time, and let's catch up soon as the draft gets underway. It's finally here.
Thanks, guys. Final mock draft coming out Thursday morning. Check it out, Outkick.com.
Let's do it.
Thanks, Dan.
There's Dan Z. We will certainly do that as with the draft prep and the preview continues.
Final mock draft Thursday morning. Good time for it, considering drafts Thursday night. Hutton, I am excited that the Aaron Rodgers news is done.
How excited?
I'm actually going to be a little sad when the draft is done on Thursday night. I'm the rare one that's like, I look forward to it, then it's gone.
It's like the final.
It's like a gust of wind.
College football game of the year.
And then it's gone. Yeah. I sit around and cry during bowl week constantly. I watch the R&L Carriers New Orleans Bowl, and I immediately start to get melancholia.
Yeah. And then Chad will watch full coverage of the second, third, fourth rounds.
Then I just binge watch an entire series of a show after that.
Coming up, we preview the sports night ahead. We'll continue the discussion on the trade reaction, Aaron Rodgers to the Jets. This is Hot Mike.
What you're experiencing is the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafting flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation, and pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, it ain't this. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Come on.
Welcome into Outkick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader. I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life. ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in a land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the #1 overall pick.
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna lib. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose.
The scary thing, Tommy, is in the history of this government, I've never seen them give anything back that they've taken.
Oh no, they never do.
And they won't.
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human being. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it, people.
I believe this person is the greatest player anybody alive will ever see. How can you hate Derek Jeter? A guy's on-base percentage tells me his batting eye, and a guy's slugging percentage tells me if he's a threat. That's the kind of guy that throws a no-hitter, that effectively wild guy.
Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. A bold taste of the Southern Legend.
Chad, what's your gut feeling on Grizzlies Lakers this evening?
My gut feeling is that Dillon Brooks is going to take another gut shot in this game by LeBron James. And he may try to take another shot at LeBron James at some point.
I'm glad he wasn't suspended because of this. Like, I'm tuned in more. With Draymond's suspension, it was like, oh, is he going to do the podcast afterwards, which he did? Is it going to be like the last time we suspended for the playoffs where he was sitting over at the Oakland A's game?
Yeah.
With everything going on at the arena. He's just watching it from one of the suites. At least Dillon Brooks, is playing, and we get to see the trash talk again.
I love the Brian Windhorst description of Diet Draymond Green.
That's great.
To describe Dillon Brooks. Hey, it's a chance for him to and the Grizzlies to right the ship, because if they go down again tonight and they're down 3-1, they're more than likely losing the series. And then what we're going to be talking about is Dillon Brooks running his mouth and then LeBron James pointing up at the scoreboard afterward and taking over the series. So I'm rooting for the Grizzlies because I'm rooting for a good long series in this one and more animosity. So hopefully they can get a win tonight.
Ime Udoka is headed to the Houston Rockets to be their new head coach. Of course, the coach, former of the Boston Celtics, who was put on administrative leave and then eventually fired for having a relationship with someone employed by the Celtics, which was against company policy.
Well, the only thing against company policy was that he didn't report it.
No, they didn't disclose it.
Yeah, they didn't disclose the relationship.
But it was mutual.
I think of all the things going on in the world, this is a pretty easy one to explain away.
Yeah.
If you're Udoka and the Rockets, I don't think it's even like Chris Beard level explanation stuff. But when he took the job at Ole Miss, right? I mean, they're going to have to answer questions about it, and he's not going to go into a ton of detail, but he's going to have to acknowledge, hey, I made some mistakes here, but nothing illegal happened, right? And kind of move on from it. But he is the top coach on the market for anyone, and the Rockets made the hire, and I do not blame them because he is the most talented coach that was available, so I understand why they wanted to go in that direction.
Chad, so Aaron Rodgers, that storyline is over. Do you think the storyline of Lamar Jackson in Baltimore will be over by the end of the week? One way or the other?
Yes.
Meaning contract?
I think that we're going to have some. You think it's going to continue on?
Yeah, I do. And because Huntley, he signed the tender, so he's back. Maybe they draft a quarterback too, which adds to more of the drama. And I think what would intrigue a lot of people is what happens if, like, one of the top teams that need a quarterback end up not getting the quarterback that they want, so they don't draft a QB early, and they go back to the board and try to acquire Lamar Jackson again.
Well, what if
I'm thinking of Indy?
What if Baltimore drafts a quarterback?
Yeah, potentially. But Indy's the only team that was actively saying, yeah, we're at least interested in having those discussions.
Hey, if you did not have tickets to Morgan Wallen in Oxford, Mississippi last night, be thankful that you didn't show up and decide to go to that concert, because they made the announcement after the opening acts that there would be no concert because he had no voice.
But if you had tickets to the party the night before,
then you were in luck.
You had a hell of a show.
No rain out on that one.
Back with another show tomorrow, 3 o'clock Eastern, right here on the Outkick Network.
No refunds necessary for that party.